On today's episode of Let's Talk FGO, Santa Carna Lotto is back, and is there a Santa Cuckoo in our future? You just have to stay tuned and find out. Hi, hello. I am Commander Omega. With me as always, Leader Lucky. That's us. That's it. We're him.
Forgive him. Omega's tired today. But on that note...
I've been very tired the past couple of days. Shit sucks. There's stuff to do, man.
It's like, I got shit to do. But with that, I hope everyone is enjoying Fate Grand Order, a.k.a. Damn, Santa Got Hands. And while we here at Studio Omega like to bring you the latest in FGO-related news and memes, we will be talking about current and future events for both the JP and EA versions of the game, so anyone not wanting spoilers should double down on getting ready for LB7.
Indeed. We are not doing the pre-game this week because I'll discuss my exact thoughts on the scheduling, but the current event we're doing, the Christmas rerun, won't end until the 17th. Next week is the 13th, next week's show, I should say. So we should be clean to do it there. Also, as previously stated, I'm tired, guys. I don't know why. I think I may be coming down with a bug or something. I hope not too bad, but I've been, tired, a little stuffed up, a little short of breath lately, so... It's fine. It's fine. It's all fine. So many things we can do. But we're going to do the show. We're going to give a shout out to our patrons by name later. But of course, we want to thank all of our listeners at the top. Patrons, YouTube subscribers, YouTube members, who can be esteemedly called the Knights of the Fluffle. Which I'm pretty sure does still have the duh in there.
Yes.
It's pretty cool. Keeping us afloat in these trying times. Alright. Do I? No, I think I got that. So I'm consolidating tabs, chat. Because I will assert now, also, this week, we're going to remember, I'm going to do Fanservant Friday. I've actually got it pulled up. And then I'll post the poll sometime this weekend, probably. I say probably because, as I said, there's so many things going on. Let's see. Well, we should start at the start. And check in first. That'll be his favorite Kohai, Mash.
Senpai, 起きてください.
Because that means it is time for Wake the Fuck Up Senpai Regular 7 for pro tips. My selection of pro tip for you is very simple. I will remind you again later when I talk about the event, which shouldn't be too far down the line, but just to say it at the top, the current lotto, the rerun lotto, is capped at 20 boxes. It says you can only refresh it 20 times. Technically, it should say 19 times, I think, but it says 20 times, so there's a limited number of boxes. So don't get freaked out if you stop suddenly. But yeah, we're chilling.
Yeah.
There's no records or evil this week. We just had a couple of minor interlude campaigns and a couple of small banners. I did think about whether or not I want to do tickets or anything for the virtual rerun because the lotto started out much sooner. But no, I think we're going to take a pauser and just see because the Oberon rotation run hasn't come through yet. So we'll hold on to those things if needed. So yeah, not really doing anything much. Barely done what can be generously described as start the event. Though I did make sure to do the prologue. It's okay. It's still got time gates and stuff, so I can go on my back burner because there's so many things. We'll talk about it. But that does mean that we can move safely to Did You Finish Your Master Missions?
Yay.
This week, to finish your Master Missions, you need to perform 30 FP summons. I know this doesn't seem that hard, but this is the one I always forget to do and do last, so remember it. You also need to defeat 3 Earth attribute and 3 human attribute servants with an S, not enemies with an E. Also defeat 3 lawful alignment servants, and then complete 5 and 10 quests. You should be able to do this by doing the event. And if you can't, you can probably get some very low-level runs in, Fuyuki or Orleans to do it. Just because these are very, very basic baby missions.
Baby.
That means we're gonna move swiftly on to Skelograms. Because there is actually a little bit of news. So, started already, but we got, on the EN side, Revival, The Glorious Path to Santa Claus, The Sealed Christmas Present, Light, started the 6th, goes until the 17th. Literally just started last night. As I said before, it's going to be a limited lotto. You're only going to be able to do a max of 20 boxes, assuming I am understanding the website's phrasing correctly. Like I said, I think it technically says you can refresh 20 times. That should mean you can get 21 boxes, technically, but I don't think that's what they mean. I think they mean it stops at box 20. Chad, I'm sure, can tell me if I'm talking crazy, but like I said, I'm pretty
sure it's stopped at 20.
Yeah.
Also, isn't this our last rerun?
Yeah, basically. Apart from the ones that were polled earlier this year back to back. I really hope we figure out how to do that not back to back for English. I don't know if we'll be able to do that because that's in the front half of the year when our schedule is usually cramped anyway, but that's going to be a It's going to be a mean 6 weeks. But yeah, no, this is basically the last time FGO did a normal, regular rerun. Instead we're getting 3-week events and many other like pocket banners and the Evocation Festival and so on and so forth. We do still have time gates for this, by the way, until the 11th. So, you do got a decent chunk of time here. It's, just a little over 10 days, but you're going to have to wait a few days in to get your steez. But we have banners for Vitra up right now. Karna and Arjuna will be in the rotation. All of these guys are permanent, so even if they're not doing any like new servant banners, feel free to hold your beans for now anyway. And that's basically it. It's very simple, straightforward, and small. Yeah, we won't be doing any proper rerunifies, but we'll see it. I mean, the funny thing is, I could be doing a lot of different things, but I need to read show notes and make sure to progress the show. I could technically... spoilers for future topics, Chad, in case you can't tell from the thumbnail and the joke I'm probably going to do with the title of the show and the joke I did at the intro of the show. Girls Frontline 2 is out. It's literally pulled up on machine number 2 right now. I could be auto-battling right this second, but I'm not, because I burned through a lot of my intelligence puzzles anyway, and I'm going to let myself naturally regenerate while we're recording the show so that I can go back and play it later after we're done recording the show. Mm-hmm. Assuming I don't have to lay the fuck down again. But that's all of your EN news for FGO.
Yeah.
But there is a little bit of JP news. First of all, the tail end of Interlude Campaign number 21, the one ongoing now. They launched Summon Campaign number 2, starting the 30th of November, going until the 7th of December, so it is almost over, but it is coming out. This is a banner that is Durga Zenobia Sugitani.
Woo! Good banner.
So, yeah. Yes, very, very, very nice banner. And, as we said... kind of expected, but that is indeed a Durga rerun this year, coming on back. And Durga did get the 4th interlude. I believe it is just a St. Court's interlude, but still, that is our last interludus, and it's a good excuse for a banner. Also, funnily enough, JP is running the Lost Belt number 7 Clear Support campaign from the 1st of December till the 31st of December. Interesting. I wonder what could have ever made them think it was a good time for that. Do also, by the way, everybody be on the lookout. This does mean that officially they're moving up their like official gameplay streaming and stuff and story stuff, which does mean that it's going to be possible if you're not lickety split on those events when they launch. There will be spoilers for EN because the whole Lost Belt will be accessible. Just keep that shit in mind. But they're running 0 AP for LB7 and above in here. They are doing some recollection quests. No idea who those enemies are. We'll figure that shit out later. But it's, probably pretty cracked. We also got a Rasputin rank up. So his guts-based skill, we've probably mentioned it before, and I'm sure you'll hear about it towards the end of the month when I do a wanted. But he's got a percentage-based guts. So they upgraded that skill with a rank up. So his guts now stacks with all other non-percentage-based guts. So that's... The only other percentage-based form of guts come from CEs, like Necromancy. But they made his percentage guts, his 80% chance to guts stack with other non-percent-based guts. The NP damage he got on Guts Trigger was just for him. It is now party-wide. And now he gets a 10% crit up on self for 5 turns of his Guts Triggers. So we're seeing a lot of funny little Guts stuff going on. A lot of Guts tech is being added. Zenobia got some revamp on her Guts. King Tut has a heavy guts mechanic. Rasputin's guts is being buffed. A lot of people are joking that this is the Stealth Chengong buff. As we just get more guys who can survive being shot out of a giant bow. But also, honestly, I don't think Rasputin was hurting as like a unit choice, but this is a thing that's like always been something. FGO doesn't really want to make guts too powerful on player characters, I think, because it is just kind of like a very weird mechanic of resetting yourself. But it's very stonks. So they've kind of like revamped that a little, because his guts is also a taunt, so gives you a high chance of trigger and giving a whole team some buff. We do know that they're planning on having a stream on the 8th. I believe this is going to be the first of their Turing Winterfest streams if they haven't done one of those already. So you got a couple days before that hits. We do, I believe, have the prospective bonus list for the event that'll be announced there, possibly launched there, because I don't think FGO is doing anything right now. Yes, here it is. Somebody has scrubbed it. Assuming this is correct, they have pre-announced your selection of bonus servants for the next event in JP. It's going to be all your Santa friends. All your Santa friends are included. We're also looking at both Lancelots, Emiya, a great pin of Santa mask. You're going to be able to get Jaguar Man. Riders will include Simi and Dobrynya Nikic. Waver's going to be in here. Daikokuten's going to be a bonus servant. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Both Koyans. We've also got Tez, Wuzetan, Sitonai, Abby, and Yang Guifei, and also Tlalak. And regular Mash will be a bonus servant. So there's a decent amount of LB7 chance. Like I said of the intro, some people have been joking or predicting, Santa Cuckoo? I don't think so, because Kukulkan is not in the normal bonus list, but they do sometimes try to trick you. No matter what,
we have a Santa Cats. I feel like we need to have a Santa Kukulkan.
I mean, I think that is a pretty good one. Also, by the way, Santa Cats is also, because she is a Samba, she is also in the selection here. But we do have a few of our LB7er types and a decent selection of foreigners. Like I said, both Koyan's on the rate up, and Yang and Abby. It's got some interesting potential, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Like I said, the stream will be the 8th. I am going to assume they are going to go into it right away, because the only thing they've got going on by then will be the clear support campaign. I do believe they said that it will require LB6 clearance to get in, but still might be LB7 themed. This is the thing they have been doing lately.
I'm going to be on that copium for Santa Koyanskaya.
That would also be very funny. I think that is permissible. It would also be extra funny. Not that she's like the first time that's happened, but it would be very funny if she got especially given how many outfits she has, if she got a Santa before she got a Summer.
Yeah.
I would
like
find
I said,
that
I feel like we missed
amazing.
our chance with Summer this year. Seems like there was a really good lead up for it, so I'm like maybe they held off. So Lucky's gonna hub that copium for Santa Koyanskaya.
Summer, I feel like, got very muddled by the fact that, as we discussed, they used it as a leapfrog into an ordeal call. That I feel like that futzed with the unit selection and stuff. Some of them were still pretty deep pulls, but also we got some. I also think
a lot of things were overshadowed by Beast Aresh. Like they really went the whole 9 with that.
Yeah, they went very over the top with that. I mean, that was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Takuchi literally saying in interviews, "Oh yeah, we went so hard because if we just did a normal swimsuit alt, we feel like we'd be letting you down because we made you wait so many years."
Yeah.
So yeah, big slambo.
Slambo.
That is the bulk of our news. Though before anybody dials it out, I do have a semi-news related, FGO related thing to say. As I said, we put out the first part of the Lost Belt 6 recap. I have not been working too hard on the next step yet. Like I said, I've been a little tired lately, trying to take some breaks, because I got real exhausted bouncing back and forth between a couple projects a couple weeks ago. And I have a question for the audience. So basically, and I think this sounds about right for the pacing. The way I got this is we have one small little episode where we cover part of the Act 2 drop. I think that episode is time coded. That was the thing that used to happen. And I believe it says it leaves off at section 13, which I'm pretty sure is halfway through Act 2. So it's not even all of Act 2. And I'm fairly certain that the 8-hour monstrosity stream, which is only going to be 6 hours of the other thing based on other people's comments and time codes, but it's a big long stream we're going to have to work with. That I think covers basically all the way through Act 2 and into probably 3. Knowing us, though, we also could have yapped about just Act 2 for 6 hours. So the question to the squad is, because especially if there is overlap in the giant stream, do you, the audience, prefer getting a tiny little baby episode sooner, which won't probably cover all of Act 2, or would you prefer one giant episode, which is probably going to be Act 2 and 3 combined? Because I do not think I'm going to be able to isolate the audio and crack out everything in the 8-hour stream and then break it off, put all the Act 2 stuff in a different audio track that I'm editing separately, and then pull the other part out and slap it in a new video. Like, that's just going to be a lot of extra work when I could just keep editing and put it out sooner, probably. So let me know your thoughts before you fade into a different reality, audience at home. Slam up those comments. A bigger, longer video will be bigger and longer, but will require more time to work at. But like I said, if I get you a little shorty sooner, that will be, probably incomplete. And like I said, we'll see with what we can work with. But that should be the end of the Skeleton Grams.
Alrighty. So, with that, we're going to move swiftly, or not so swiftly. What's our mission clock at?
We're about 18 and a half minutes.
Not so swiftly. We're going to move on to this week's Let's Talk FGO mailbag, the segment where we read what you have to say and comment accordingly. I don't even have it written that down. I just remember that now. That's just how I say it every time.
Yeah, that's, rote memorization.
Rote memorization. We have six lovely comments here, and we will get to them all. Let me hit refresh one more time, just in case. Just in case. It did not change. Okay, fine. I see how it is. Bet. So we will get to it right meow. And our first one comes from Monster Girl Aficionado, who says, Deal. Someone post a gif. Lucky and Omega, no question this week. Just sending good vibes. Wah, 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 wah. And wishing you well. Keep up the great work. You too. Thank you for being here every week. You are the wind beneath my wings. This next one comes from Moonara Laura. Did I pronounce that right? I always get confused when people put apostrophes in the middle. Like, how do you do that? Is it like Moonara? I mean Moonara. Like,
yeah, honestly, it depends. The apostrophe can mean a couple of different things. There's supposed to be like it's definitely supposed to be like a stop, but it could, be like a short.
Oh no. What's up? Sorry. I think my Discord is messing up a little bit here.
It does do that sometimes.
Okay, I think it's catching up. I think it's probably because I'm trying to install Path of Exile 2 right now, and my computer is thinking very hard.
Yeah. That part makes it worse. Discord does sometimes get a little gooey, but
all right, but I think everything gets caught up. But Munara Laura, a Tamlin Rider class servant at your servant master, Omega and Lucky. Well, no, I'm at your service, so there. But they say, question, would you like to see more Ortonus-like costume dress? And if yes, on who? So I'm going to assume by Ortonus, you mean like Ortonax, and we're talking about Nana. Well, of course,
I think actually this is a thing I brought up in somewhere in our Lost Belt discussion, but yes, the name Ortonaeus or Ortonax is like actually in real life linguistically ambiguous. They're both the same.
Oh.
People can't decide whether it should be spelled like with a hard axe or more of like an ouse.
Oh, no. Hang on one second. It has told me that I do not have enough space for Path of Exile 2, which I find hilarious because it didn't actually give me the option to pick my installation path. So they're a big fat dummy. Hang on one second here. I really need to pop over my computer and install like the second tiny like SSD I have so I can like put games and stuff on it. Normally I've just been installing stuff onto my my bigger HDD, but that's slow. Let me see here. Let's try this again. Yeah, no, it's just like I just open it up and it's all like allocating space. I'm like, why? Let me pick an installation path. That's another thing I'm just gonna have to fucking figure out later. I love it. Anyway. So, I'm assuming by this is by basically a servant equips a costume and they get a different skill set in NP. Right? Right. Now, personally, I think that's great. I think that gives servants, flexibility and versatility and all that crazy stuff. I like being able to do more with less. Like I said, the only problem is I think that the Ortonax has gotten a bit of a bum rep because a lot of people consider the Ortonax a lot less useful than Mash's OG kit. So
definitely, skill 1 is as much as they tried to make Bunker Bolt / Black Barrel like a thing, is not as good as the damage cut def up. The 2, I think there was a genuine argument back in the day, like, is the 2 taunts more valuable? So I think there's some room for strategizing, but yeah, the first skill, I don't think anybody really wanted to try and turn Mash into like a crit attacker, and it just doesn't work real great with the rest of her kit.
No.
But if we could actually if this was a way to actually revamp a couple of servants with some kits that are just all kind of goofy. Look at you, Geronimo. That could be helpful. I was thinking of just like the aesthetics, not even the skill replacement effect.
Well, yeah, well, that's what I'm assuming, because we have costume dresses, and we do have like a lot of just get a new fresh and funky look. But I think I would like it. As for what servants, oh god, I think an easier question would be who would not honestly, the sky's the limit when it comes to imagining servants and other things. God, just every year, just seeing all the fun designs people come up with servants, casual clothes, summers, winter ensembles, special events, because we usually have our summers, we have our summers, we have our Santas, but then imagine if we started doing Halloween alts and maybe New Year alts, and then we start attaching skills to that. It's honestly, it's you can go just about anywhere with Set's kind of system. And I'm kind of sad they don't, but that also means it also makes sense, because as people like to fucking forget, doing this stuff is hard. It takes work, time, and a lot of effort, and time ain't infinite.
Yeah, we already know that their dev process for servants takes them about a year to 6 months, 12 to 6 months, depending on things. And obviously part of that is assets and animating, though obviously if you do a costume, that will include probably some new animations, and obviously will involve redrawn sprites, because if you're asking me, hey, could we just have a system where we just change a servant's skills and nothing else? I mean, yeah, we could, but that's very unprecedented, so I don't know if we're going to do that, So that does mean there are some new assets, but presumably some of that is also testing and figuring out how servants play and trying to figure out how you could. Let me put it another way before I get too in the weeds about it. If you're already spending dev time to figure out how a servant's skills could be better, we already have that. It's called rank ups. If you're trying to figure out how we could supplant an entire servant's kit, that is interesting, that could be useful, and could be very cool for some servants, but they could also spend that time developing new servants and also just buffing the servants' old skills. Like I said, I think there's a very selected crew. I think with Ortonax Mash, there were two purposes to it. One was genuinely for story reasons. I think they wanted to revamp Mash, because Mash is a character with kind of a complete arc throughout Part 1. But also, obviously, they realized they were going to keep on going, and I think they kind of, figured out through, Epic of Remnant that control room Mash is neat, but doesn't work as a permanent solution. They do keep bringing that back for a decent number of events, for instance, but, they needed to figure out a story reason to get Mash back in the field without just immediately restoring her powers, I guess. Some of us could say that the easier way could be that Galahad could be, less of a bitch ass, but anyway. That technically that's still slight slander, because I don't think we've ever fucking figured out what the hell Galahad's side of the story is. Bozo won't talk to me. So they wanted story reasons, but also I do think they did maybe as maybe not a balancing factor, but just trying to get us to switch up our paradigm. I think they did want to try and change Mash's mechanics, because that was also such a Part 1 thing, was well, you gotta max level Mash, you gotta level all of Mash's skills, Mash is really useful, she's free, we gotta include her in every team comp. I don't think that part of the switch worked the way they intended it to do, because everybody still included Mash anyway, and often there are still a decent number of storylines where she's required to show up as well. But the problem is that now it's oh, we gotta pay the Ortonax tax. You have to put zero cost Mash in, because the game is genuinely, there are times when I feel FGO is not balanced for you to actually use all 6 servant slots, or even all 5, even with one of them being free for friend support. Some 3-star and lower CEs are cool, but the amount of gains you get out of higher level CEs and higher level servants are real good, and you just can't fit them in your servant cost otherwise, unless you're super very high level. So yeah, Mash kind of turned into a tax, and I think that's why ultimately they backed off it, because they realized that the player base it did not have the intended effect on the player base they were aiming for, and they still require sometimes for some story inserts and stuff. They go back and forth. So, we'll see. But yeah, it's definitely like a factor of like they could do more costumes that do a skill switch. That could be interesting. And certainly I think they've done something very interesting very rarely where they will actually straight up have story upgrades to skills. That has basically only ever happened to Casku of all people, and then they hid like the final form of one of Welfare Go's skills like in the story for her event, which is neat. We should do that more. That sounds real interesting. And I don't remember. I'm pretty sure Castoria always had her Fairy Eyes passive. It's just the name was hidden, or did we have to actually make progress in Lost Belt 6 for her to unlock that?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I know for a fact that like Morgan and Castoria's Avalon LaFay skill was renamed by like actually clearing the event for spoiler purposes. But I also was like, did Castoria's Fey Eyes only unlock after we did some story clearance? It's not a huge deal because it's a passive. It's just like her like 10 or 20% crit resistance. But it was an interesting thing they did that, again, I feel like they have not done as much of. And that was like, I would argue, like much less impactful to hide than some of the stuff, like how frustrating some of the fights have been when you've been forced to use Ortonax Mash in story. Because there are a couple where, like I said, the damage cut would have really helped us out in earlier Lost Belts. Now, if you're asked, like I said, the second half of the question, on who? I don't know, man. There's like over 300 servants. Who would need like if not a complete overhaul of skills? Gesundheit.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, bless you. If not like a complete overhaul of skills. Oh, double sneeze. He's fighting. He's really fighting them demons. Sorry, slightly distracted my train of thought. I was gonna say, because Ortonax Mash's kit is similar but not the same, so not necessarily a complete overhaul. Like, I don't know. Let us know in the comments who you think would need like multiple skill replacement. Everybody's probably gonna say Geronimo, but they did at least do one rank up. I can just start feeling the direction of like how fast can they reasonably get away with rank ups or interludes for Geronimo kind of a thing. But we started it. We started the process.
Sorry, I am doing black magic on my computer right now, trying to get this fucking installation path to change.
Yep.
Alright, let's see if that did it. I hope I typed that right. And neat way. But if we're going to, like, actually specifically, like, call out servants, Lucky is always going to default to his normal, Tamamo. Listen, we have literally zero Tamamo costume dress, and I feel like this is a genuine crime. Genuine. Hell, even Altera, like, if we're talking about, like, extra heroines, fucking, even Altera got one. Tamamo, no. Tamacat did, which is fine, and I love my Tamacat. But where's my love for Tamamo? This is important.
Also, yes, it was clarified by our lovely Patreon chat. Fey Eyes was obtained on Castoria by clearing LB6 entirely. Okay. Which is neat. It's appropriate. I like it.
Did I break it? I think I broke it. I really am going to have to sit down and see if I got the connection to hook up another SSD in my computer. Actually, I got to find the SSD, too. Why do you all have to be like this? So, moving on. This next one comes from Juggling 2 Mini Gacha. Boy, howdy do I know that. But they say, Season's greeting, Lucky Omega. I've been sinking a lot into Girls Frontline 2 with the direct sequel. It's set 10 years in the future with new and returning characters and a whole new game type. This is the concept I'd like to see from a hypothetical FGO2. Do you have any thoughts? What would you like to see out of a sequel? All the good and best vibes. Wah, 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 wah. Peace. Yes, I have been playing Girls Frontline 2. I was actually a day late because I wasn't actually sure if I was going to play it. We'll talk about it more later. Yeah, we'll do our usual breakdown of well, this is a segment that some of you have literally never seen because I think it's been I mean, I should count that I did try Zenless, but I feel like it's been years since we probably had Omega and Lucky try a new gacha game, but yeah, we will talk about it later in full. But talking about it as like a formatting for a gacha game sequel, right? That I definitely think is very interesting, and I definitely in my head made the FGO2 Exilium joke, but it is an interesting approach. I will say, for starters, one thing that's also very interesting is technically while we've come out with 2, right, and it is a sequel and we've got a big time skip, Girls Frontline 1 isn't over yet. Yeah, no.
I believe they're having their big climactic chapter like this month.
Yeah.
So
and
that's a very interesting position to put the game in.
Yeah, no, and specifically, it's China's server that's going into EOS, not necessarily the rest of them. So I don't know. Lucky might try to get back into Girls Frontline just so I can get the whole story before, if it's possible. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Because so to talk about why I fell off Girls Frontline, one of the things was the expanding amount of time and effort you need to put into the game to catch up on stories and events to clear got really big. Like, they bolted a lot of systems to amplify your T-dolls in over and over, which were neat, but were more shit you had to do with it, more timers, because it was all timer-based. It's from that era of gacha game design, where, like, everything is timer-based and then you pay to speed it up. And as, like you just said, this is all capped off by the difficulty going way, way up, so, like, the amount of, like, help with, like, walkthroughs and stuff that you either needed or you had to spend a lot of time crafting your tactics and strategy and using active inputs, because it was, the game was strategic, but it was still required, like, active repositioning for skills and effects and shit. I remember some of the fights. I don't remember which boss it was, but, like, there was some boss run that you did for, like, an event where you needed, like, crackerjack timing to be like, oh, the boss is going to laze the entire middle row. You need to, pause the game and quickly reassign all of your girls to get the fuck out of the way, because you had very small amount of time to actually, like, hit the button and reposition before you got cooked. And then you need to, like, move them back, because if they were out of formation, shit was fucked. Like, it could be very micromanagey. So, yeah, like I said, I don't know if that's going to be possible. At the very least, I do recall that presumably why other servers aren't going EOS yet is because I don't think Girls Frontline 1 ever did full catch-up. Like, I don't think they fully accelerated.
I don't think so, no.
So that means that there's going to be, months to years of lead-up time for other places.
Yeah. But in regards to the question itself, like, I have put a lot of thought into what I would like to see in an FGO2, and I think, like, I know I mentioned this probably back in October when I started playing it, but I actually like to see a lot more information and more of, like, Outer Planes. And, like, I was actually thinking about this earlier. I think I actually want to see something more, actually a little bit more traditional in FGO2, especially with, like stats and skills, because I know I've mentioned this before, and I guess I'll talk about it a little bit here, but despite it having a lot of hidden stats and a lot of hidden systems, front-loaded, FGO is stupid simple. You have two stats. You have health and you have attack. That's it. You have a lot of hidden stats that affect your health and attack, but that's it. Like, when you're like, you don't actually have a defense. When you are doing things like defense up, defense down, damage cut, and stuff like that, that's just modifying your opponent's attack stat. You're not modifying your defense. So it's
and obviously this is the thing that, like, I think was this year where, like, people actually finally managed to correlate the servant stats to in-game effects. Like, they represent certain ranges in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's another thing that's like, well, servant stats have always been there, but it literally took us years to figure out they meant something, which is funny because, like, Fate is nominally kind of, I mean, admittedly, it's for funny reasons. Like, I think we've mentioned this before, but to remind everybody, the reason why servant stats are formatted the way they are is because that's how Emi Ashiro understands them. Like, every master is supposed to get, like, a basic, like, information spell worked over them so they can understand servants. And so, like, the way Shiro's brain calculates everything is he basically thinks of it as, like, a kind of a retro RPG game. He's like, okay, so strength, endurance, agility, etc.
Yeah. And over the years, they've come up with new and interesting mechanics that interfere with, like, success chances and, like, success chance, debuff chances, and, like, all that stuff. But it's just a lot of stuff that's kind of just tacked on to make more interesting gameplay. At the end of the day, you still just have your stats are basically just health and attack. we can go into like MP generation and, you know, critical star weight and all that stuff, but those are honestly, those are a little weird. I want to be real. Those are weird stats. I'm not necessarily.
They're cute concepts, but honestly, the game would probably be better if the like critical percent chance was just a percent chance all the time. Like if servants just had a crit rate, a normal critical rate hit rate, as opposed to generating stars to generate like it's
generating stars and then your star weight.
It's a mechanic that I think was kind of cute and interesting when FGO did it. Like they were doing things that were a little bit different from other games, but also some stuff that was the same. But it's definitely mechanics that could be like streamlined now to just stats that make more sense, because like honestly, this is a situation we know from other games as well, but like this is a genuine concern with how, for instance, Final Fantasy XIV is balanced. A lot of people at super high-end content just go down to what is the maximum amount of DPS we can output the fastest, and FGO is the same way for, like, I want to say, like, 90% of the content you do is just, okay, there are going to be X number of waves of enemies with so much HP. How do we output the most damage the fastest so that all the enemies die with me thinking about it the least? Not even, like, pressing the least amount of buttons. To do some 3-turn farming strats, you sometimes got to push a lot of buttons. Like there are for the longest time, you know, order change has been built into, you know, setups because the plug suit is like an ancient Mystic code. So like people have been thinking about you like getting back row to front row and stuff for forever. But ultimately it boils down to how many buffs do I got to stack that my number one damage dealing unit, whoever that is, outputs the most damage so that the fight is over. So it becomes very attack-focused. HP focus usually only matters in the other 10% of content, which is story, boss fights, CQs, recollection quests, that kind of like high-difficulty content, where the game literally says, no, sir, you shall not 3-turn this. It is not possible. I am stopping you from doing that. So I think there's a lot of room for FGO 2, whatever it looks like, to revamp itself, I think, to be a more traditional RPG with slightly more complex mechanics, but also not being that much more complex. Just be more open about the stuff you do.
Well, I think like just as a boilerplate, you already have all the stuff you need. It's just that you just need to not try to be so complex about it. For one, we have servant classes. We have a variety of classes that can let you a servant pick, you know, maybe what type of attacks or does. I do not think we should use servant classes as advantages over each other anymore, because that has gotten way too fucking complex, especially when you keep adding them. They should instead be something that adds a particular modifier or lets servants do specific things.
Yeah, they should probably go back to the OG of like, because we do still do this, but we do it in a weird way. The original way classes were supposed to work, besides the class advantage, is that each class is granted inherently certain class skills. You know, riding, for instance, is supposed to be mostly locked to... Officially, it's supposed to just be locked to, like, sabers and riders, but very quickly we realized that other knight classes needed. I think lancers should also all get riding, mostly, anyway, but yeah. And, like, that's why that section for passive skills is marked class skills in FGO. We should actually do that to change that up so that, like, you can have, coding-wise, you can have classes have class skills that are inherent and give them inherent buffs, you know, whatever that means. And then also servants can have passive skills that are, you know, continuously active type skills or noble phantasms, and then also do that. Another thing I do want to avoid is every fucking gacha game does this currently, and even FGO still does it. You probably do need something besides servants to roll, like craft essences. Please do not go the weapon or armor or the orb, I'm not going to use endless, route. Like, I get needing equipables to change stuff, and I think that's important. We can probably figure out a better way to do that, because the like, noble phantasms and servants' armaments are kind of, like, part of their setup. That should be part of probably, like, how they do attacks and things, you know, should relate to that. And like Lucky said, if you want to build a baseline of, like, classes get certain affinities based on what their class is, that's fine. Like, for instance, make it so that, like, archers and casters have, like, a default ranged attack move list, and then we decide with others if they do as well, but by default, archers and casters should be ranged. And then other classes get access to, melee comp attacks, or, hey, lancers could have reach, I don't know, like, if we're doing, like, team setups and stuff. But, like, make, like, back row, front row kind of shit work. Like, if you want to go back to, like I said, the OG of, like, console RPGs back in the day, you could make positioning in the lineup matter, that, like, I think it was bugged and it didn't work all the time, but, like, old school Final Fantasy still had that, frontline, backline type shit, right? So, like, there's room for mechanics that are easily recognizable, but also do more. And I do kind of think, though, that, like, I probably would want an FGO 2 to, like, expand out, maybe not leave the turn-based zone, but, like, give me a little more space on the battlefield. I admit I'm a sucker for squares, but, like, playing GFL 2 is just, like, there's a lot you could do with a 3D space as opposed to a 2D space, And I think Arcade did a lot of that with being much more like a real-time arena brawler. Like, they had all their skills on, like, timed cooldowns, for instance. Of, like, real-time cooldowns, I should say. So, like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Story-wise, well, first of all, the idea that, like I said, GFL 2 getting started with enough of a time skip that it doesn't matter, and then not quite finishing, that may be something that FGO 2 wants to look at if they're going to do it. I know there's a lot of complexities with, like, what the sequels and stuff are gonna go in there. But yeah, like I said, the layup of just, like, time skip, you don't even necessarily have to keep the same protagonist, though I think a protagonist after a time skip and kind of a hard or soft reset does work to explain a reason why, like, where we would slowly be reacquiring new and old servants. But, get this little time gap and revamp the mechanics, and I think there's room to keep FGO's RPG flavor, but kind of go back to basics. Like, some elements of FGO are fairly well understood for their time. Like I've talked about several times, that, like, the concept of, like, quick arts buster is a thing that's in several games. And I think you could do that as, like, a certain kind of affinity for attacks could be done that way. But also, there's a lot of things going out. Elemental systems are apparently all the rage. Fucking Girls Frontline added an elemental system, while also still keeping that some enemies are weak to certain kinds of weapon attacks, which is very funny to me. When I see a bad guy be like, this guy's weak to ice or corrosive damage, but also rifle bullet. So, like I said, that leaves us room for that kind of, like, complexity out there. And that is a thing that, like, I think FGO never really bothered with the elemental type affinities because they had class advantage, But also, as we said, the class system got very complex, got very good out there. Did I cut you off? Sorry.
Yeah, you did. I was, like, only in part 1 of the part 3 things I was going to talk about, and as soon as I finished part 1, you just cut in there and have been going for, let's see here, about 10 minutes?
I mean, I've definitely had some pause or breaths, but yeah, it's just kind of like, there's a lot of thoughts to get out. Well, what was your step 2? I didn't realize
the
you were
step
working
2
with
was, instead of, like, having the class advantages now, we switched the class advantage to, between the, what was it called here? Man, Earth, and Heaven? What was the Man, Earth, and Heaven?
Attributes.
We change the class advantages to that, because that's originally how it's supposed to be, if I remember correctly. Like, man beats, so I can't remember the exact trifecta right now, but something a little bit more simple, and it's easy. We just do a simple class triangle there, and we leave it alone.
And then maybe star could be, like, neutral. It's supposed to be special.
Yes.
Speaking of which, by the way, to remind people, I call it attributes, but that's technically was originally hidden attributes because it's listed in, like, servants' profiles, but I think it was only this year that JP added, like, an icon where you can quickly check what a servant's attribute is. It's just one of many things, like Lucky mentioned, I guess 10 minutes ago now, about being hidden or obfuscated in FGO that they've, like, slowly peeled back the layers on.
Yes. And from there, we already have the stats that we need baked in because we have, strength, endurance, mana, luck, and agility. We can just put those into the forefront and actually have the main things instead of just applying modifiers. Like, strength would be, attack, endurance would be your defense, mana can probably be a combination of, debuff chances and debuff resistance, plus probably something to generate whatever energy you may be using for special attacks. Luck would be very easily your crit modifier. Am I forgetting one? I feel like there's 5. I said strength.
There's agility, but there's a couple ways they could work that in.
Agility, I think, like, for the way that I would like agility to actually have to do with the speed of a servant. On Outer Planes, I actually do like this. It's not, Outer Planes does not play on the factor of all one side goes and then all your side and then all the team goes. It's a matter of whoever speeds the highest goes first, and if they're fast enough, they can go again before other characters go.
Okay, got some initiative stuff in there. That would be very appropriate for Fate.
Yes, if you have characters that are just so fast that like you would probably assume that assassins and riders would probably be very speed, but maybe don't hit so hard, or maybe riding is an ability that improves a character's speed or something. And things like that.
There is also a hard stat for NP, but that's also very easy to tabulate.
Oh, it's NP. That's what it was. Okay. Yes. So mana.
Yeah, there's magical energy and NP stat. They're separate.
Okay, then NP should probably just be for your NP power generation and whatnot, and then mana should be for your debuff resistance and your debuff success chance. And Outer Planes, they actually have that as 2 separate stats, which I do like. It's called effectiveness and resilience. The higher your effectiveness is, the more likely you are to get off a debuff. The higher your resilience is the more likely you are to resist a debuff. And considering how debuffs are fucking crazy in Outer Planes, it's very important. So, with, all that, I do feel like I actually want to, pan over to Haze Reverb, another gacha game that I'm playing that features giant girls and is way more loot than you're expecting. Do not play it in public. But this is something I like. They actually have 2 gachas for their system. They have a gacha for characters, and they have a bunch of just 1 and 1-star characters. They have a few 2-star characters, and they have a handful of 3-star characters. You are going to be crushed with 1-star characters and stuff. But what they have is they have a second gacha, which you can spend money on, but you don't have to. They actually just let you spend in-game currency on this gacha specifically, but it's very specifically a gacha for their gear items. Every character has 3 gear items that they can upgrade, and and the gacha system is you either get a special currency for it, which is usually gotten through doing daily missions, special events, and whatnot, or you just spend what in Haze Reverb is they're called shield credits, which is just your basic money currency that you can go farm anywhere. I personally would like something like that. Just basically pick 3 iconic items that each servant has, something you probably see in a command code, maybe a weapon. For Tamamo, it'd be her mirror, probably her giant blue ribbon that she wears behind her head, and maybe
her talismans. She uses those a lot in other. Well, actually, no, so they're in her FG animations too. But yeah, her talismans are part of her magecraft.
Yeah, and her talismans. You would basically get these 3 items, and you can upgrade said items to probably improve some stats somewhere, which I think would help fulfill the niche for getting gear slots. With this sort of system, you probably want dupes to do what they do. They've been doing. I've seen a lot in gacha games where you don't just upgrade, but you actually get usually some sort of skill effect for that. I'm a little leery of this because it's a pain in the dick when you want to do it for high rarity units, but it's usually pretty interesting when it's for lower rarity units. You don't want anything that's necessarily game breaking, but you like getting additional stuff out of your characters. It needs to be something more interesting than just straight stat upgrades, or just make your hammer hit harder.
Well, and presumably, like we said, craft essences are cool, and I do like that FGO did not go the route of just doing gear when it started. But also, what the fuck a craft essence is, I don't know.
No. It's
The art's cool, and they have cool effects, but
like if I was to design a FGO2, I would actually keep craft essences, but craft essences would be like consumables you can use in battles for stuff. Like, temporarily boost attack, temporarily boost defense, temporarily boost or maybe put down like some sort of effect on your team, on the other team. Something that could basically like lets you have a little bit more control outside of doing, instead of just sitting in the back and telling your servant, do your best.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too as well, is like kind of something the equivalent of magecraft tools, which are brought up a few times, and some craft essences are actually like magecraft tools. But that was like usually the old school ones or the generic gacha ones, like technically, Black Keys, the like Hydra Dagger, the Self-Gia Scroll, shit like that,
Like, there's a lot of things you can do, like, and if nothing, hell, even you can change it, like, again, like, taking it for more modern, I would definitely like, like more, better, stronger, I don't know what to fucking call them, dormitory scenes, I guess, for the lack of a better term.
Yeah.
You can basically pull up a gallery, like, poke your servant, give them gifts and stuff. Some stuff could, some of the items.
The
items could
FGO
just
term,
be,
I think, is it's also used that way in like they got it from Extra, just the My Room.
Yeah, the My Room. Maybe like the love potion becomes like a gift, or maybe like you can get like Azov Dagger. So I think we should recontend like craft essences as either like crystallized memories that we can like do something with. Who knows? Maybe it's like I said, I'm not entirely sure. I am kind of.
I mean, God knows. There's so many Fate works and even games and like words. You could figure it out. Like, there's a lot of room for that. It took them forever to like explain like what like a servant ascension and like spirit origin strengthening is. Like, the idea is you're feeding this extra magical energy into your servant so that they can get more in tune with their spirit origin, which is like the strongest, best version of them. But that was already kind of shown in games like Extra and Extra CCC, actually, where you can get those like higher levels.
You know what I would do? You know what I would actually do? I would have like these crystallized like memories, like stuff like we have for craft essences, but I would have them that you can equip them to servants for probably like a couple stat, like some just some regular ass stat gains, because you would have their because me personally, I love fiddly systems. I love it when I just have a bunch of things I can just slap on the people. It's like, Lucky's the kind of person who's all like, yes, give me an equip slot for like the head, the shoulders, the chest, waist, like boots, arms, hands, all of it. Give it to me. So I like that. But you also got to be careful because you don't want weighted. But like, I do think like, you have your base servant with its stats. Then you have the 3 gear items that you could get from like a second gacha. Then you have like craft essences that you can also equip that just give probably like generic stat boosts or maybe have some synergy effects. And then you have like basically magecraft tools, I suppose, for like that's because magecraft tools for like consumables, and consumables and gifts, which I think is really fucking neat.
Yeah, the gift giving aspect that's been added to a lot of games is also really nice. Like, obviously FGO servants do have the bond system, then that does result in like extra voice lines and eventually their special bond craft essence, but it is definitely a system that is kind of like undercooked compared to where other games have taken it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Stargazer's teapots were what, last year?
Something like that.
Yeah, so like consumables that increase affinity are like weird. And also, actually, that's another thing. A hypothetical FGO2 would be greatly served by kind of like incorporating a lot of these ideas from the start, because like FGO has a lot of little weird items. Over the years, we've gathered a lot of different weird things, like apples for getting your AP back, but also you have like the different prism currencies which got added, which is like mostly understandable, but still kind of like odd. And then you've got stuff like Stargazer's teapots, back when we used like battle points, which is interesting because there are still lots of games that have come out recently that have like limited amount to do certain quests in game, but like we haven't done a battle point raid in like forever, but those would have little consumables. some of those raids had, like, I remember, I think it was one of the Onigaishimas, you would, like, pick which kind of sake to drink ahead of time for, like, the maximizing your card buffs and stuff. There's lots of weird little things that FGO has done over the years. We could stand to, like, unify that down a little.
1 second.
Wallaki is 1 seconded. I suppose that means I can take a free raid to ramble some more. Definitely, I feel like we could... Mats are cool. Like, they're very fluffy. They've got a lot of lore to them. The fact that, like, every time they do a story drop, they add, like, 3 mats and they're very obscure is, like, that's a pain in the ass. That, I would love to see them streamline that system in a sequel. I don't want to say no more Dragon Fangs and Evil Bones because I feel like that is such part of the vibe, but like I said, if we could, like, minimize that, maybe those could become gifts. Medea would really appreciate if you gave her more Dragon Fangs for more Dragon Fang warriors. But, like, so many different skill and ascension up items that are separate from your level up items.
Well, I think this is, again, why we need to, like, bring things probably back down. Like, again, we have, like, so many classes and all that stuff. We need to dial back on the junk. I guess
As an
is
example,
the best
we'll
way.
be back here later, but no, that was the wrong button. But let me click on my little guy. Let me go my storeroom for Girls Frontline. So yeah, let's see. Items. We got resources. I got a decent number of those, but let's see. Yeah, there's some gifts. They have combat reports to level up dolls. You have blueprints to level up weapons. You have the stock boost bar, which is for Ascension, basically, neural expansion, which increases your level cap, but these are, like, fairly generic.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, you have transcription conductors, they're called, but they're used for enhancement nodes, which are basically, like, your equivalent to, like, certain skill enhancements. And you got info cores, which are how you get, like, equipable skills. So yeah, like, FGO at its essence has all of these things, but their problem is that, like, every thing has, like, 4 different flavors. Because, you know, you've got bronze, gold, and silver mats, you've got different class skill gems, but also different class statues, but you've got 2 kinds of statues. Pipe that down. Servant statues, they're cool. We could just make class statues, like, your one-size-fits-all kind of, like, you know, level cap enhancer or something. Because, like I said, God knows you get real fiddly real fast.
Right. So, as for, like, the actual, like, system of FGO2, I still kind of want to do the turn-based RPG of just, you know, my dudes versus your dudes. Because I was trying to think, like, what is the appeal in FGO, like, right now? And honestly, I think a lot of it is actually in the visual flair of attacks and NPs. But I do think that very specifically that we have to do the transition to 3D, like full 3D models and attacks and whatnot, and their MPs. They have the technology. I know they can do it.
Yeah, Arcade already showed that they were a little ahead of the curve with that.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, with the speed initiative and the stats, I think it'd be best just to keep it. Maybe go to like 4 on 4. Maybe increase the numbers a little bit, or that, like, three's always been a weird number for me when I look at this. It's just like 3 dudes in a row. I'm so used to the classic, you know, party of 4.
Yeah, 4 is the OG Final Fantasy. They've done 3 at times as well. You know, I think there's arguments for 3 and 4 in an RPG, but with FGO, kind of the 3 and then the 3 in the back row is a thing we should work on. If you want to keep back rows, that should actually be like a function you do.
Like, honestly, like, you probably shouldn't have a back row. Like, the master should be the back row.
Yeah.
Like, and whatever you're doing back there. Like, honestly, remember, masters are only supposed to usually have just, like, 1 servant at a time. And you're running around with a posse of fucking possibly 6? It's a little weird.
With the power of flash summoning. But yes, that has almost killed us a couple of times. That would be nice for them to kind of recalibrate that.
So, yes.
4 seems like a good starting number. Like I said, that's and technically, I think that was actually no. I think you could field 4 members of the AR team at the start of Girls Frontline 1, maybe. But, like, I think the minimum Girls Frontline unit was 3.
I think so.
So, like, even GFL 2's gone up to the 4 is your default. Like, there's a couple of tutorial levels where you're, like, at 2 to really simplify things, but they settled into 4 and then can go to 5, maybe. Like I said, I hope we can go to, like 6 or so, because they have a lot of spawn slots in some of their maps, but like starting with a nice 4 party, and it doesn't have to be like properly strategic, but certainly I think some like terrain effects or like terrain placement couldn't go wrong, like giving you the ability to actually like a reason for like say archers to attack enemies who are distant or flying or something versus melee attackers, being on the ground kind of a thing. You can do a lot. This was something that I mentioned earlier in the Ramble Fest, is like even the OG Final Fantasy had like front row versus or frontliners versus backliners. Like you weren't actually rowed up, but you could have guys like be a step back, take less damage, deal less damage. So some form of positional would be interesting, but I think that the turn-based feel, like you said, is a key part of FGO that sets it apart. Literally, actually, I answered the Girls Frontline had a survey, and they're like, anime-styled turn-based RPG, and it literally says in there, it's got like Honkai Star Rail and Fate Grand Order, like, as their examples.
Yeah. So yeah, and with the like actual combat, like I said, I think they should just go crazy from the start, but instead of like necessarily like not be so much tactical, but maybe give you like a basic attack, a couple of like weird abilities that can do like a variety of things. Like I quote Outer Planes here a lot, but one of my favorite characters, Noah, which is a how do I describe her? She's a fox. She is a tiny fox-eared super scientist that uses Boku a lot. Like I can't actually. Can I pull her up? I'm gonna fucking pull her up because I love her. She's so cute.
Well, I mean, even in that end, that's another thing that like again, we will be talking a lot about Girls Frontline 2 today, but even Girls Frontline 2 has gone that route of like when your dolls have active abilities, they have basic shoot. They usually have one kind of like special attacky type attack, and then they have another skill that does something.
Yeah, I think they have 4 because I think they have a basic
4 skill
like
slots.
2, and then their ultimates.
Yeah, and that would probably be like either your NP or even special skills would be your big strike, which because like in Girls Frontline, all their ultimates have like cut-in animations and stuff.
Mm-hmm. But I just want to show off Noah here for a second because she's cute.
And I think that like if we're going to like 4-man party defaults and stuff, I think that means you can still keep the concept of Noble Phantasms being support versus single target versus AoE. You can still keep a lot of that in there.
Yeah, but like her one of her things here is one of her attacks is just a basic single target attack. But if you crit on it, you get to do a follow-up attack that hits everyone on the field. I'm like, oh, that's so rad. So, I spec'd out her bid so she can crit, like, more often than not. And that's the kind of stuff I want to see in FGO 2, where, it's just not you stacks, you just don't stack buffs on yourselves and just unleash it. No, I want abilities to do weird and different things.
Yeah, FGO's idea of builds and synergy is very limited. There's a couple of like, if you have very specific servants, you can do like an all curse team or something, but it's very rare in FGO.
It's very hard and it's not necessarily sustainable. Like, and again, Outer Planes as an example, the limited version of Tama no Mai, the Kitsune of Eternity, the one that came on Halloween, which is the reason why I got into Outer Plane, she's a curse user, and curse is actually very fucking useful. Instead of doing like, oh god, like 100 to 1,000 damage on enemies that have like 200k, you can like remove literal like a quarter of their health with enough curse stacks. It keeps stacking up. And Tama no Mai, Kitsune of Eternity, has an ability that if you hit an attack, if you do a certain attack on enemies that have curse stacks on them, it does a detonation, and then they take additional damage based on how many curse stacks they have. Like, imagine that in FGO. Imagine if you can put like fucking like 10 curse stacks someone, and you do a third skill on them, and when it goes off, instead of just doing like the pitiful like 100 to 2,000, does like 10k per curse damage. That would actually be something interesting and fun, and something that you actually want to try to put together a curse team for to actually pull off. Instead of just making these weird making it for a weird gimmick, you can actually maybe try it for a viable strategy. Which is the problem that I think it has a lot of FGO is there's no, aside from making some weird gimmick, there's no real reason to do anything but load all your attacks up on a single unit and let them fucking rip. But,
yeah, because like the like reward to doing that is that you either do get such big dot stacks that they do damage like regular attacks anyway, or mostly boils down to like, oh well, Yang Guifei, you equip her with the Summer Lake CE, so she does extra damage on burn, right?
Yeah.
It's just like it all just becomes raise the DPS higher regardless.
Yeah. So like that's the kind of stuff I want to see. I want them to be able to make weird effects that aren't just based on stacking buffs.
And I think it does ultimately go back to round this out, because we're in a single mailbag question, and some people may have meandered a little. They may have zoned out listening. Right at the start of this question, you talked about how FGO at its heart really only has 2 real stats.
Yeah.
Of attack and HP, and that is, I think, like everything in the game boils down to either you increase your attack so you do more damage, or you reduce enemy attack so you take less damage. There's a couple like that you can heal, you can increase max HP, but mostly it's all focused on interacting with the attack stat, and honestly, we could really broaden that out a little.
Also, this is another thing like I didn't think about until you just said. I would love for healing to actually be something that's viable on a regular basis.
Yes, that's another thing that a lot of other yes, we have support units. What do support units in FGO do? They mostly maximize your DPS, and you have a couple of hard defenders are really important. But healing is that's actually sorry, I just had an ancient brain blast there. That's a discussion that goes way, way back. Like literally, that was one of Voice of St. Quartz's like old school video essays that like hooked people into his channel, and therefore we got a slight popularity boost out of him. We had him on a couple times, but like he had a video talking about like, hey, why aren't pure healers like a thing? Because there were a couple, and there are a decent amount of healing spread throughout units, but it's never anybody's single gimmick is just heal some more. And it's because like healing in FGO doesn't do anything besides make you not die. That does matter for a couple of story fights.
I'm gonna be real. Healing doesn't even keep you from not dying. Like, unless you like on a strictly 1v1 system, if any like enemy reaches their NP and you are not prepared, you die. It's like, and usually their damage leading
guts.
Are better,
and
leading up to that, like usually their basic attacks, as long as you don't have like class disadvantage, usually aren't much to worry about. This is like I think one of the reasons why the meta has turned into firing your high damaging MP as fast as possible. Because you know what's the greatest defense? High powered offense. They can't hurt you if they're dead.
Yep.
So like there really wasn't ever a space, because I talk about this constantly in gripe. Like enemies will have anywhere from like 100k to like a million k HP. Do attacks that do like anywhere between like 30k, like MPs that do anywhere from like 30k to like 150k, and you're sitting there with 20k HP at maximum. So unless the
attack to HP ratio for the player side also did really run away. Yes.
Yeah. So like no matter what, if your enemies start getting off NPs, unless you have some hard-coded strategies to avoid them, you just die. And like there is no healing strong enough to bring you back from almost being wiped out by an MP. Like my Tamamo's a fucking tank. She has tanked so much bullshit because she has a high ass HP value and she has a very good defense, like a very good defense. So she has tanked a lot of stuff, but after she tanks that, there's a pretty good chance she's gonna go down. Because even she has even with her NP and stuff, it's like only still like a few thousand.
Yeah, you can, because there are some units who are just beasts of tanks. Like, you can talk about like Tomo and John in the old school, and like Jinako I still think has like one of the highest HP pools in the game, right?
Jinako is a very good tank.
KP has her whole gimmick about just stacking stonks on her max HP, and you can sometimes, if you have enough HP, you can sometimes live through a neutral damage, and especially if you have class advantage defensively, you can live through some NPs. But you're right, the main issue then is that like the healing doesn't really scale with it. Some of our best heals in the game have like really long cooldowns. Enkidu has like a 10k self heal, right? That's actually useful. Enkidu's self-heal is very good, because if you fire it, presumably you have just lived through not being dead. You are now back to full HP. But the problem is that it's like a minimum a 10-turn cooldown. There are a few like servant healers who can make that, wind up. I think like heal per turn, if you can stack it, can be very good, because it's basically negating the chip damage you take from basic attacks. But like healing has always been really weird in FGO, and I think has been like outclassed by hard defenses, or some form of debuff cleansing has always been like super in demand. And even I would say like defense up and damage cuts have come before healing, because if you just take less damage, that means you don't gotta heal it, and that I think is to the contrary of some servants, because some servants are set up to be supporters and healers. So I think that ultimately, like, diversifying the gameplay model a little, you could have proper RPG like roles of like healing, tanking, etc. God knows we have plenty of tanking, because we've had a taunt in the game for forever.
No. So for FGO2, like, I think we can probably keep the core of what FGO is now, just improve a lot upon what is here, trim down the excess while expanding the core. I think that's what we need. We need to trim down the fat, but expand the foundation. And then, bring all the systems and graphics up to what is a modern level. Like, I do think that FGO2 is probably something that is still completely viable, because I do think that the Fate franchise as a whole is still extremely popular, and that it has longevity. Like, people are gonna be like talking about stuff forever. Also, this is something else I want to talk about. This is like completely for like a story reason, but I'm actually really much liking how in other games we have our we have our visual novel, but then we have like 3D cutscenes and really nice CGs. The 3D cutscenes, in Girls Frontline 2, I love them. They're great. We need more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, obviously you can't go too crazy, because ideally you still want this to run on some mobile devices, but also, hey, PC client for FGO2. That's cool too. That's great, because then you can crank that shit up. But I think Girls Frontline 2 kind of hits that sweet spot of like, obviously, yes, it's 3D models, so the production values have gone up from the original anyway, but they do a pretty good job of intermixing. They have, normally rendered, like, you have in-engine stuff, obviously. You have, like, normally rendered cutscenes, and then a couple of times they've got that, like, not quite like the full running, CG, but they will have, like, properly pre-rendered cutscenes where they do, like, the real shit, and that's a much better production value, even to the base game.
Oh man, can I find the Girls Frontline 2 opening movie? Because that shit's rad as fuck.
Probably somewhere, maybe. I don't know. I do think that some of the... It's shocking to me that, like, the way the, like, fandom and content shit is these days, where, like, there are a few, like, guide videos out there, and almost all of them are 9 million videos entitled Beginner's Tips, but, like, the game is still so new that nobody has, like, any shit pre-prepped. So, like, I would hope that, they got, some, like, reposting of some of that stuff. I will say, Micah Team has been going ham on advertising. And
oh, yeah, no, it's all over the place.
Not in a shitty way. Their selection of ads that I keep seeing on YouTube for Girls Frontline 2 are much better than, like, wave after wave of certain Arknights or Azure Lane ads. They've got a much better selection for their ad agency this time around, I think. Because mostly it's just a couple of gameplay clips or cutscene clips, and then mostly just dorm interaction shots, which, is that thing you were talking about as well, that, like, FGO could use some more. Because My Room has always been pretty central, and obviously tabbing through My Room dialogue is cool, but Arcade really ramped that up as well by just giving you, like, full 3D turnarounds and different animations. We could take that technology into the core FGO space, take it out of the arcade, put it in homes.
Yeah.
Also, hey, Sony, since you're so fucking invested in Fate Grand Order as an IP, console ports. I don't need them. I'm okay playing on them on PC, but more if we can get some seamless login shit that I can go back and forth on, that'd be great to just put my game more places so I can multitask better.
I do think, if we do get an FGO2, we'll probably do a multi-system release, probably like maybe on PlayStation, PC, and mobile.
Definitely if it's done through Lysengo, because we've discussed that, Sony did pick them up, so... like I said, I'm genuinely surprised. I don't know, maybe it's because there's no long-term benefit to it, because it was still kind of like banner formatted, but I'm really surprised they never tried to float like a package deal of a home port of Arcade. Maybe the cost benefit is just not there. Actually, yeah, there's live 2D technology's come a long way as well. Girls Frontline 2 is doing a lot with like story sprites. I think are mostly just live 2 or just have good expression sheets, which FGO has also always had, and then they've got like 3D models for cutscenes though. Also, shout out to whoever they've got for expression and background character artists. The Girls Frontline is really, really killing it there with whoever their, like I said, their character artists and character designers are. Mm-hmm. Fucking had people asking if you can roll pulled it in the Gacha. I'm like, no. She is a human woman.
But I think that is enough on that. We have talked about that at length.
Yes, the mission clock is now 1 hour and 27 minutes.
I think we've almost spent like an entire hour just on that. At least not an hour, 50 minutes.
It's a meaty topic, as you could see by the fact that we talked about it for so long. There's a lot to talk about a hypothetical FGO2, which is probably not that hypothetical.
Probably not. Also, I would like, last note, Omega mentioned this in his rambling, but I think I would also like, just keep the same protagonist, but give it like a 10-year skip. Make you more wise, make you more wise, a little bit more jaded. I think that'd be good. I saved the world like twice, and all I got was this crappy ceiling designation. But yes, let us move on.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about the Master sequel of just like a couple guys from the Mage Association show up, maybe Gordolf, and they've got, the fucking magical Da Vinci briefcase, and they're like, Fujima Aritsuka, we need you to come back. And you're like, man, I don't live that life. I live in the woods in Japan now. Start smoking, just like, I don't do that shit anymore. No, you don't understand. We're doing a new grand order. Oh, wait, MASH has a normal lifespan. That means we can get, if we do it like a 10-year time skip, we can get 20-something MASH. Office Lady MASH.
That'd be rad. Like, honestly, I'm really wondering what's gonna happen to the fucking Storm Border after all this is done.
I mean, I could see, like, Atlas confiscating it and putting it in their basement of super weapons the world's not ready for yet.
There's something I always love about, like, the giant mobile base. Arknight does it, Girls Frontline 2 is doing it. Like, no, I would like it. Bring back the Storm. Bring back the Storm Border. But yes, it probably would have to go into lockdown because even though it started out as, Nemo's fucking MP, they've done some shit to it. I'm not entirely sure how it works now.
It's full of like parallel universe tech. It is like technically a mystery in of itself, which means we probably can't have it flying around. Assuming it would even work if we fix the timeline. You never know.
Yeah. But
mailbag.
Yes.
There's like 3 more of these.
There's 3 more of these. Sorry about that. Just one of those last minute thoughts that had to get out. So, this next one comes from he who still thinks how crazy Fairy Breton was. It was very crazy. Oh, excuse me. Howdy, Lucky Omega. Hope your week has been well. This week, after listening to the LB1 Part 1 recap, I had a thought to ask also. Obviously, we know the names the Tamlin took allowed for the summoning of... Technically, I guess it's us in Arthurian. Yeah. Post a gift, though. They spelled it with author and then Ian, not Arthurian. Arthurian heroes, but mainly only towards the end where the Lost Belt was no longer cut off from interacting with proper human history. All but one member anyway who starts with us and is mentioned perhaps he was summoned because we land in Cornwall. But with revelations about the nature of Balbon, she being too good to everyone, even to her own detriment, do you think that she was specifically may have been the reason Tristan was able to be summoned so early and save us during our journey to LB6, because in the end it did lead us to meet her and defeat her?
There could be some loose parallels there. I do kind of think that Nasu just picked Tristan as the one we summoned because he would be the best one for us to be paired with in the early chunks of the Lost Belt, and also one of the easiest to job.
I wasn't gonna say it.
Like, if we got Light of the Lake ass Lancelot, that guy's such a Gary Stew that like we'd get our ass halfway to Camelot and then fuck up because he can't actually kill Tamlin Lancelot. Like it just the man's too OP. And Gawain, like, obviously, Gawain versus Tamlin. Gawain, he would lose because we did that in the middle of the night, but he's really strong in the sun. But also, Gawain is kind of canonically a himbo. The man cannot cook or, like, survive for himself. He just knows about knighty stuff. Whereas I think, like, Tristan has spent some time wandering through the woods and, like, has his bow and stuff like that, and has, I think, you know, his characterization as kind of the more quiet, introspective, sad one worked better. But Lost But 6 also just does have a lot of those parallels in it that are just hiding in there, so maybe Natsu did it deliberately. It's one of those questions of, like, what order did he write it in, right? Because, like, because I'm pretty sure, based on listening back to our recaps to edit that part, Tamlin Tristan is not on screen at all by the time regular Tristan does his whole bit and is out of the story for the rest of it. Like, we do get mentions of her, I think, as the most hated, but I don't think she appears on screen until after the incident at the human farm. So, like, if Nasu wrote this in, like, a linear order, then, yeah, he would have had to have decided to put Tristan in and then take him out already. But if it was, because there were rewrites involved, if he wrote it in less of a linear aspect of, like, figured out Baoban Shi as a character and gave her the name Tamlin Tristan, he may have picked Tristan deliberately to be the front runner. So yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. So, with that, let us move on. This next one comes from the Tiger King getting ready for his Christmas adventure in Latin America. Question: Hey guys, so with the new year and the new core around the corner, what anime are you looking forward to seeing the most? Also, favorite cookie flavor. Anyway, that's it for me. Sending good vibes your way. Wah 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 wah. And hope you have a great evening. Same to you. Easiest question first. Favorite chocolate, favorite cookie, chocolate chip. Usually double chocolate chip. If I can get chocolate dough with chocolate chips, I'm fucking happy. Second runner up is peanut butter.
These are all very good cookies. My primary is probably, yes, also chocolatey chip. With my backup is I mean, we'll call them Oreos because, you know, that's the brand name everybody knows, and the classic Oreo is very good. Mm-hmm. But chocolate sandwich cookies are also just like, I don't know, man. There's just something about the whole science of it, of, you know, peel them apart, lick them, eat them, dip them in milk. Like, it's got a whole procedure to how you do it just right, and they taste good.
They do taste good. With the winter core, we actually have a lot of good stuff coming this winter. Apparently, Strange Fake is supposed to show up sometime in the winter. I'm not entirely sure. We did get episode 1 early, so I think a lot of people are expecting that it's going to show up sometime in the winter core. But we also got Solo Leveling Season 2, which I think is going to be nice. The Apothecary Diaries, also going to be very nice. Oh, man. Sakamoto Days, also going to be nice. Fucking 100 Girlfriends going to be nice. Like, I need to actually double check. I heard that My Happy Marriage was actually really good, so I might have to check in on that. But, oh, God. And we have, like, there's a smorgasbord of isekai and fantasy ones that I'm interested in, too. I can't remember them all off the top of my head. Hang on, let me see here. Oh, that's right. Ubo Blott's getting an anime adaptation. That's fucking wild to me. I don't know if I'm that interested in it. Ubo Blott got kind of weird to me. Also, unfortunately, I do think we're gonna have a lot of weird isekai ones or reincarnation ones. Someday I'll be the greatest alchemist, and Bahad Neko, the elf girl's cat, is secretly an S-rate monster. That one's really weird. That second one, really fucking weird. I don't know where we're going with that one. Also, the Greatest Alchemist one, also kind of weird. That one's also kind of a low tier one of mine. The two that I am actually, at least because I am super excited about, is from Bureaucrat to Villainess, Dad's been reincarnated. That one's gonna be great. That's when we're basically an old salaryman gets reincarnated into a game as the Villainess. It's fucking peak. I cannot wait. Especially since he's not like a super nerd, but he's a kind of nerd. He's like a nerd from like, oh god, like what was it? From like the 70s and 80s. So he has all like so he has all like that old school nerd knowledge, not necessarily like any of the new stuff. So, you know, he kind of gets it, but he doesn't. Nah, it's great. The other one that I'm also super excited for is Headhunted to Another World, from Salaryman to Big Four. This one, basically a man is summoned, like basically an office worker is summoned to another world and is promoted to the Big Four. He is the big four of water because he is an overseas worker. And he doesn't necessarily have a lot of power, but, he deals with a lot of systems through, proper management and whatnot. And it's interesting. I like this kind of thing. It's a little non-standard. It's not OP, but it's still fun. There's more out there that could be interesting. Worthless Appraiser might be good. I'm not sure. Let me check this list here. If there's anything else that pops out immediately that I know of. No, doesn't look like it. So I'm just doing a quick scroll here to see if there's anything. Yeah, not really. It looks like there's going to be a Kaiju number 8 movie and a special, a few other things. There's exciting things. Like I said, it's wrapping up to be a pretty good quarter. It's going to be a lot of good stuff.
And I was fairly quiet there, chat, because I was figuring out what my not anytime soon, but I was checking my budgeting for what my next run of groceries could be, and if I can fit some chocolate chip cookies in there. I think it'll work. Like I said, I don't need to order. I think I don't need to restock until sometime next week. But like I said, I'm projecting the budget.
Consider maybe just getting the cookie dough and making it yourself. Is that cheaper? I don't know.
A little bit, but not by a lot. That would warm the house up. I'll take a double check on the budget.
I know there's plenty of anime to get started. Actually, that reminds me, I have not caught up. I have not watched this week's Daima or Dandadan.
I barely managed to stay current on Dandadan. I have not had the time for Daima. Like I said, I have been very tired lately.
Well, yeah, I think you mentioned it earlier. Not like I like Daima. It reminds me of more of old school Dragon Ball, which I am all for, but it's still one of those weird things.
Like I said, it seems interesting, but I had to still chew through like the first episode bits because, like I said, it was there. I know why they're doing it, but they did a I won't call it a clip show because I think all the animation is new, but they're doing a recap episode to kind of catch everybody up. And it's like I said, I am one of those people who I'm like, I still decently am caught up on all this stuff because I have watched a couple of the newer movies. I tried to stay in tune with like what Super was doing, and then like I said, I'm pretty sure Daima actually started before Sparking Zero actually came out, but because Sparking Zero had come out before I got back to watch it, everybody remembers all of the story of Dragon Ball Z. Because, that, as usual, that's where the story mode for Sparking starts, so it's all up in there.
So, no, like I said, I like Daima because it reminds me of a more of a time, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm like misremembering things or something, but I feel like the thing that I think I like kind of turned me off about like Dragon Ball Z was that it was all battles all the time. There wasn't as many like jokes and gags as there was in Dragon Ball, and Daima's kind of like gone back to that. They even say it in like the opening. I love the opening, by the way, and the ending. I watch them all the time. So.
And that definitely was Toriyama's plan. I think that's why people were worried about Daima. They were like, "Oh boy, Toriyama's he's going back to his comedy roots again. Will that actually like make a better product?" And it does seem like it is because like Super has
had
done
more
with his input. And had more
Super
comedy.
had more comedy in it, like especially like when you start involving like Beerus and and other things. Like Beerus is, for all his power, Beerus is essentially a gag character. People don't understand this. He's there to be unbelievably strong and untouchable and to make funny jokes or be a funny joke. Like how he's God, I can't remember her name, but how he's totally crushing on that one girl. You see her in
Chilai, Broly's girlfriend. Yeah. No, or his like weakness for food and stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
I think the problem where like sometimes that rubs people the wrong way is that like because they did the movie cut Battle of Gods first, like in that Beerus is much less jokey. But when you go through Super and the Super movies, it's like we raise the gag levels back again, and it's like a lot of people are like, man, this guy was supposed to be like a serious threat. No, he comes from a long line of all-powerful joke characters in the Toriyama canon. I think there's literally an episode in Super where, like, Vegeta meets Arale and realizes, oh, this girl's a comedy character. Nobody can defeat her.
I think I remember seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a 1 or 2 part gag episode. So Super tried, but I think it was still way too up its own ass about the power scaling shit.
Yeah.
As well. And like I said, I don't know if that was, like, what Toriyama thought his audience wanted versus what he wanted to do, or was like put upon him by the editors. if people don't know, by the way, Toriyama famously, I don't want to say bullied by his editors, but like there were multiple points, especially in the Android/Cell saga, where he got yanked around by his editors to change stuff. Usually for the better. Like, I think generally people would agree that like the designs for androids like 19 and 20, Old Man Dr. Gero and the round mime guy, not as good as Android 16 and 17 and 18. 17 and 18, basically the same character design, though gender flipped. And then obviously, like, Cell is weird because, like, Imperfect Cell is pretty cool, and Perfect Cell is, perfecter. But Semi-Perfect Cell, yes, that's what he's called, it was definitely a weird stage. I think literally, I think Toriyama's editor was, like, saw the sketches of this guy and is like, this is the second stage guy? He better absorb that other android real fast, man. Nobody wants to see this guy. And they're right. Nobody likes that guy. Second form Cell? So yeah, like I said, I don't know how that plays into, but like, obviously I feel like Daima being the project that he was like spearheading before he died, and then he did pass away, and that was like no matter how you felt about where Dragon Ball was as a franchise over the past couple of years, that was like a huge loss to the community and a real coming together moment. And I don't know if that gave Daima like the special sauce of like, nobody in the studio wants to fuck it up, But yeah, generally it's very well positively received. Like I said, it's just I have to take the time to sit down and like actually noom through stuff. But like I said, I've been very busy with so many video games and shit coming out, and also juggling a couple of like working projects and shit. It's crazy right now.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I am very excited for the Winter Core. It's gonna be good. Soul Leveling, I won't say I'm super excited for, but the animation is probably going to be pretty good. I didn't read the light novel, but I did read the webcomic. Not the webcomic, the webtoon. The Mawa.
Soul Leveling is a weird one, because, like, I don't... That franchise, I know, has some fucking budget behind it, because when they did their, like, mobile, game, their gacha game launch, there was a shitload of ad push for that was, like, really high quality, but also was, like... A lot of the trailers were just narrating the plot, and it's like, now it is like the most basic bitch plot ever of like, hey, there's like portals to another reality where you can go, and like, life's like a video game, man. And I'm like,
no.
This was probably very iconic when it first came out and blew up, but now feels so average. And I'm just like, but clearly this was successful because the budget on this is good. This is a normal grilled cheese sandwich, but it's a very pretty grilled cheese sandwich. You know what I mean?
Well, luckily I love grilled cheese sandwiches.
Hey, that's fair. That's okay. Like I said, I don't want to say it's crap. I just want to say that like it was so funny to me to see these like really, really super shiny trailers, and they're narrating this very basic story, and I'm like, it's one of those moments where you can tell you're like, oh, this was clearly like a front runner in this field that has taken a while to get to this stage because it was kind of grassroots, Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like Sword Art was the same way of like...
Oh, definitely. Sword Art was definitely not like the first of its kind or anything, but it was probably the most popular of its kind.
It was a tone setter, and there was a lot more going on for it, I think, in the like web fiction form that got smoothed out because adaptations to TV are really scared of internal monologues.
Oh yeah.
Don't do that, by the way. Let your character's inner voice. It's a great way to fill time when you're doing scenes that would otherwise just be action. But the end result was that the anime was also turbo popular because the web novel form was turbo popular, and then the light novel form was turbo popular, and so people were like felt overexposed, and the result is that like you see a lot of things that have now become cliche. Like I legitimately saw somebody talking about like how much better the original like prose version was, because like you can tell through the power of omniscient third-person narrator that, like, Kirito is not really, like, the power fantasy Mary Sue. He is constantly beset by anxiety of whether or not he's a cool enough video game man.
Oh, yeah, no.
And also, this is the thing that really reminded me. It makes it very plain that, like, he's not actually a harem protagonist. I mean, I knew this from watching the show also, that he's only locked in on Asuna. But, like, sometimes the anime tries to trick you. That's another genre thing that I'm just like, I don't understand why adaptations like to play up the aspect? Are we just trying to, like, fake out people that there's, like, relationship triangle drama? Because that usually is really juicy, but, like, it's not real. And you know this, I know, Lucky, but there's a lot of harems that aren't really harems.
I know.
They have a lot of extra heroines, but they're not in contention. And I'm like, even, somebody in our Patreon chat says, oh, they want to make money. And I'm like, but how? Is it just like the suggestion of the romantic tension that...
No. Meg, I can explain it. It's so they can make merch and you can pick your fucking fave.
Yeah, that was going to be my second result, was like, is it just a merch driven? And I'm like, that I totally understand. Like, and I guess does it being a fake harem lend you to the aspect of you don't feel bad that you're like picking a favorite heroine because she's not going to win anyway? I don't know.
Well, there's a reason. There is a term, losing heroines.
Yeah, there's a lot of psychology in there, but yeah, it's one of those things that's like they don't say the quiet part out loud, so it is sometimes hard to pick up on the motivations. But yeah, I would totally buy and accept that like it is a merchandising factor, because that is. If you don't understand, chat, merchandising is the silver bullet. That is the killer part of anything, is like, we've truly returned to the 1980s where everything is a commercial for toys. Like, your fucking Funko Pops and your little Good Smile minifigures, your Nendroids, and then also your, acrylic standees, your proper figurines, your plushes. Like, that's the thing. The sticker game, apparently huge. So that is, if you don't know, people at home, that is a huge factor in success of an IP, is how much the merchandising is. Sorry, yes, that is the end of that thought, but also I did not have a segue to anything further because I had to fight a yawn there.
Oh, no. But yes, no, there has been there is a growing trend in villainous works, isekai tropes and whatnot, that characters, go pick up, losing heroines and whatnot. There's a couple of good ones out there, but unfortunately, I don't think we're leaving the isekai reincarnation tropes anytime soon. They are still going strong. I say unfortunately. I personally like them. It is delicious junk food, and every once in a while,
that sometimes some of them are just much.
No. A lot of them are too much.
Yeah, it is one of those factors though where you say like we're not out of it yet. It's because we have not yet found the dumbest premise that like kills it for everybody yet. No, that's just because they haven't looked out there. There are plenty of like isekais that I have read that are not even isekais, just like light novels or whatnot. Just like start off really fucking angry and just degenerate into the weirdest fucking shit imaginable. I'm just like, how did we get here? What is this power escalation? Why is there another girl? You barely interact with the girls before. Why is there another one? It's because when he went to the publisher, the author had a very solid boilerplate draft, and then when you have to write a new novel every month or whatever, you rapidly run out of ideas, and your editor is right there knocking at your door. He needs the next draft, or you're fucking fired.
Listen, no, Reincarnated as a Vending Machine is actually I won't say it's amazing, but it is fairly well written and good. It's an interesting.
That's the problem is that most of the stupid sounding ones are actually like the author's cooking. It's the really bland ones that you don't even realize exist that are dragging the genre down, but also they're bland so you don't notice.
Yeah, no, like, for example, this Greatest Alchemist one, like, honestly, I'm surprised it got an anime adaptation. It's really boilerplate and kind of dumb. I really don't even want to get into it. Like, I've been trying to read it, but I'm just all like, every chapter's like a fucking pain. I'm just like, ugh.
I don't know, man. Then I don't know,
Like, listen, like, I'm genuinely wondering why freaking, like, some of the ones that I really do like Reborn as a Space Mercenary, it's like, that one's a genuine harem, and they explain it in a lovely way, basically, because it's a space-based, isekai, main character, Hero, basically runs around on a ship, and in their galaxy, there's kind of a, unspoken agreement. If a girl is traveling as part of a man's crew, it is generally assumed that she is that man's woman because guess what? You spend a long time in space, and everyone kind of expects something to happen at some point. And so, while Hero doesn't necessarily understand that, the women that he brings aboard, he did it a couple times just because he wanted to help and save them, not understanding what it meant. and they entered a relationship, and he just said at that point, well, fuck it. I guess this is how it was. Like, he's constantly being like, no, I'm not trying to add more women, then inevitably adds more women as they are very aggressive in pursuing him, because he's a really cool dude. He's actually, like I said, it would actually have to go into the series, but it's really good, and I really do enjoy the writing, and it's actually a genuine harem instead of the fake-ass ones that we get all the time. Like, another one that I'm surprised hasn't gotten an anime adaptation is I'm the Evil Overlord of an Intergalactic Empire, because that one's almost kind of a parody of the system, where the main character Liam is like, he got, fucked over in his world, and then he came over to his world and he's like, I'm gonna be a fucking villain. And he's trying and he thinks he's an absolute villain, but he actually is probably one of the most stand-up and selfless guys out there, because people twist his desires into being beneficial. So it's kind of a twist on the thing. And he's always saying, well, I'm gonna get me a fucking harem, and I'm gonna bang them all night long. He has yet to do that because, for a variety of reasons. It's because some of the women around him are batshit crazy. He can't some of the other heroines, he's just all like, woo, stuff like that. He's also afraid of his dick exploding. Apparently SCTs in that world are very fucking scary. Exploding dicks. Not bored. But, yeah, no, again, it's, yeah, it is a valid concern. So, again, like, this is why I look at some of these, I'm like, why did this one get an anime adaptation and not the other one? Like, the fucking, Baha Neko one? That one's fucking weird. It says ecchi on it, but the fucking elf, the elf is fucking down bad for the cat. And I say that in the worst way. And I'm just like, why? Why does this get the green light?
Like, yeah, that I don't know.
Excuse
like,
me.
Some of it is like, I mean, we can always make the joke about the old money laundering, just somebody needs to put project money somewhere. If you just have a good artist behind it and you can sell character designs, like we said, merch is very important. And I don't know, it's like, a lot of these animes are made by, like, production committee, so they have, like, multiple invested parties. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, it may just truly be that, like, the publisher or agent behind the original work, like, knew the right guy to talk to at a bar to be like, yo, dog, you looking for your next anime this season? Slides him over the middle of the folder. Take a look at this shit. Like, that. And, there has been a lot of improvements, I think, to the interconnectivity and the accessibility of the anime market in Japan, but I do know that, like, Japan's business culture is also very conservative. Do not underestimate the power of going to drinks with the guys next door to get shit done, Like, so many classic, iconic, like, business relationships started that way. I think, I don't remember I was probably for the 30th anniversary, but Sean Layden, who used to be a PlayStation exec, got interviewed recently, and he talked about how, like, that's where Square and Sony's relationship goes to, was, like, while Sony was working with Nintendo on the hypothetical disk drive N64, like, they would just go out for, like, drinks and business meetings with the Square guys, and then that just turned into a business relationship. Because, like, I'm sure Sony was like, hey, we're splitting from Nintendo. We're doing our own project. Do you guys want to make video games on CD-ROMs? And somebody at Square was like, yeah, neat. It's just one of those, like, weird things where, I think we've talked about this before, but that's the story of how Kingdom Hearts got started, was that, like, Square and Disney Japan had offices in the same building, and, like, one of the Square executives gave a literal elevator pitch.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, I think it was literally on an elevator.
Yeah, just caught one of the Disney guys in an elevator and was like, hey, if you got a moment, we got an idea. And also, if you don't know, chat, that's the origin of that phrase, elevator pitch, is the idea is, if you caught a guy in the elevator going up the office building, could you give the pitch fast, I genuinely do not know how much that happens anymore. I suspect a lot of people in creative businesses don't want to get elevator pitches, but I'm sure it happened enough times in, like, the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s where you would get these moments that, like, it became a concept of, like, okay, you've got the 20th Century Fox executive in the elevator. He's going up to the 50th floor. Gesundheit again. Was that all off? Yeah, I think that was all off the second to last mailbag.
Yes. Sorry, we got talking about anime. I had thoughts.
No, that's fine. I mean, you did say at the start, not so short.
Not so short. So, with that, we'll go to the last one, but definitely not the least. Agent 418, who says, hello, Lucky Omega. Have a good weekend, y'all. Same to you. Same to you, buddy. All right, now I'm gonna eat this mailbag.
All right, I close the tab. Means we're moving on to free talk, which your only free talk subject this week is I'm remembering to do Fan Servant Friday.
Woo.
I had to double check who our poll winner was, but the esteemed patrons for the month of November selected one Samuel Colt. If you don't know, the proprietor and the origin of Colt firearms.
Bang.
So Archer, obviously. I mean, we could talk about like funny alternate classes like Gunner. Actually, that is to wrap around to the FGO2 possible conversation. That is a funny thing that like technically Fate as a whole in the franchise is even weirder about classes, but like even as sprawling as FGO is, because they need to have mechanics for this, they can't go absolutely ape shit with classes. Thank God.
True.
But like Gunner is technically a class container that's been referenced a couple of times, but we usually go to Archer. Yeah, grapplers are in there. I'm actually kind of glad we've never done anything with Saber. I wouldn't mind seeing Saber as a character, but like the actual class concept of Saber is weird. But yeah, Samuel Colt, if you don't know, real life man. He established the Colt Patent Firearms Company. And he was the first one to truly grok the revolver. So much so that actually, if you don't know, in France, for instance, and in a couple of other languages, the French word for revolver, le Colt.
Oh.
Yes. He is the man synonymous with the revolving firearm. There were a couple of different techniques that got similar, but he was the one who really cracked mass production of the proper revolving firearm, producing some of his earliest weapons. There was the Colt Patterson was the earliest. That was a breech loading folding trigger revolver, but worked out until eventually he developed the single action army, also dubbed the Peacemaker. But he did also have a few other exploits. He was known as obviously an inventor, but he was a businessman as well, doing a lot of demonstrations. He was an industrialist. He was, literally he was applying the use of like the new developing field of interchangeable parts and assembly line work. Like literally that's, the forefront of what he's at. But also, Sam Colt was one of the first to use techniques of like art to represent him and celebrity endorsements. Like he got famous people to endorse Colt firearms and kind of like started the process of what we think of as a lot of modern mass marketing tricks. So, actually he, did a lot of things, and there's a lot of there. He would gift his revolvers. Here, let me grab this screen grab because it's cool. This is a very fancy Colt Dragoon revolver, which was gifted to the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire.
Oh, rad.
Yeah, so, like...
Is that actually gold gilt, or is that
I think
brass?
that's gilded gold. I would assume so. It might be brass, but, like, Colt knew what he was doing. Love this case, by the way, like the velvet insides and the little drawers for all the bits.
Oh, yeah, no, it's great.
Presentation is everything.
It definitely is.
Sorry, I just saw a stat that I thought was bonkers. This was not working on my servant profile, but it's very appropriate. It's estimated in the first 25 years of manufacturing, the Colt company produced 400,000 revolvers, and while he was alive, Colt had them stamped on the barrel with the address of Colonel Samuel Colt, New York, U.S. America, United States of America, or, because they also produced some of the models in London, his London address. So, like, all of this was part of the process. He was also a Freemason, so there's some, like, occultism and history there you can tie to, but also that's just, like, a steal. And yes, I did mention before, he was an Army colonel. Let me double check. I don't actually know if he did a lot of active service. Yeah, like, his weapons were produced during some wars, but I don't know if he was actually, like, in... That may have been because he was in Army procurement,
Mm-hmm.
The Colt Single Action Army is called that because it was made to spec for the Army. But yes, so Archer has a lot of stuff going on there. If you want to apply a funny Fate subtitle, he could be the King of Revolvers. Because, yes, he's the King of Revolvers. True neutral alignment. He is a businessman, man of business who produce gun.
Gun.
Stats, strength, D. Endurance, C. Agility, B. Not like super high, but he is a gunman. Magical energy, E. NPE. But luck, A. You can argue he's very lucky. As an archer, independent action, B. I think it also fits that, like, not necessarily known as, like, a great soloist, but he was kind of a, marches to the beat of his own drum type man. Went through a couple of different industries before the work got along. And so there's a lot out there. So, skills. First of all, very funny again because of the talking about showing the case, but golden rule, gun, the skill to acquire wealth through guns. Normally, golden rule is a skill that, talks about your way to acquire wealth. Sam Colt was a very successful businessman. He was good at sales and investments, but he didn't come from wealth himself. But the skill has been changed for some reason, so he has the ability to gain wealth, but he can bestow it on others in the form of a gaudy gold-plated gun. Just because, he's got the original COD skin out here. Not actually true, by the way. The jokes about ornamentation aside, especially before mass production, but even after mass production, custom detailing on weapons has a very storied history. And that even ties into the next skill, which is Gunsmith A++. Sam Colt is the inventor of the revolver. He developed the modern understanding of the revolving technique. He can develop and build firearms. He can construct weapons of high quality, which can damage even heroic spirits because the revolver itself has mystery. It has a legend to it. Not only are they, decently old, mid-1800s, but like I said, there is a certain mystery to it. This way of reloading. It's a revolution. 6 bullets. More than enough to kill anything that moves. Like, there's such a mythologizing of not just Sam Colt himself, which is why I think it, makes a selection for heroic spirit. I have a fine selection of quotes as well to get into, but also the revolver itself, the cowboy gun. It is iconic. It's iconic in America. It's also iconic in Japan because the Japanese really like the cowboy spirit as well. Part of it, I think, is because a lot of really good westerns stole from really good samurai movies, and kind of vice versa. But like, there's just something about the cowboy that also infects the Japanese spirit as much as the American. And I think there have been other parts of the world that have gone through that cowboy phase as well. Sorry, whenever I think of Europe and the cowboy, I have to try really hard not to quote Hans Gruber. Just what do you think you're doing, cowboy? Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker! Whew. Bruce Willis dives out of the shot.
And Alec Redman goes off the edge of the Nakatomi Tower.
Beautiful shot. Beautiful movie. A fairly early green screen effect, I believe, because he was dropped onto a pad, and they comped him in. Also, I have to tell the story because we're talking about that scene from Die Hard, but in case you didn't know, chat...
I was wondering if you were going to mention it.
Yeah, I feel like I bring it up a lot, but, we have so many hours of content, people may not have heard this or may not remember, but if you've ever wondered why Alan Rickman has such a realistic look of fear on his face, it's because they did tell him they were going to drop him. He knew it was a drop, obviously. He's fucking suspended over a crash pad. But there's a couple different variations to the story, but the gist of it is that they released the rope holding him early. So, like, they were doing a countdown and let it go before the time they told them they were going to do to get a more genuine reaction. So it's a very real look of fear as he plummets down, which is, great. Beautiful movie magic. Anyway, wonderful film. But yeah, so Gunsmith A++, Sam Colt, he has the power of mystery. So obviously, he can build guns, he can modify guns, he can create guns, especially revolvers, that are capable of damaging heroic spirits because normal modern firearms are not supposed to be able to do anything to servants, allegedly. Never mind, we have those weird 90s cyberpunk anime goons with machine guns. Never mind them. They're clearly magical, chat. When you kill them, you get magical spinal fluid out of them. But this skill lets him, repair, modify, and conceptually improve firearms, even modern firearms, though obviously their boosts in mystery will be limited. A kind of thing that's a really cool power for a servant to have in a Grail War, but an FGO would probably be either single target or like team-wide buff effects to improve abilities. But also does say that, additionally, any gun-wielding heroic spirit, Sam Colt will have an advantage because he can obviously instantly identify whatever gun they're using in their style. Billy actually uses a Colt Thunderer, I believe, so Sam Colt would instantly be like, I recognize that gun. I built it. You're using it wrong. Sorry, now, we've already made the revolver Oshel lot Ocelot and Oshawott puns. I'm just like, I'm sorry, I can't think of it. He would be out here big bossing everybody. You tend to twist your shoulder when you're fired. That's a revolver shooting technique. God, sorry. I'm just like, when Delta? When will I hear it again? But other skill, Light of Possibilities B, talking about it, Innocent Monster and Pioneer the Stars are kind of cobbled together into this idea. This is also on Napoleon, but also I think should honestly be on More Servants. But when, Sam Colt is summoned, it's not just him, the concept of the guy who made the impossibility of a repeating firearm, like genuinely until he cracked the proper revolving chamber technique and all that stuff. The ideas for repeating guns were very like loosey-goosey. The best we'd gotten up until that point, I think, were pepperbox designs, which were multiple loaded barrels that you rotate, but then you have to reload each individual barrel.
Yeah, pepperbox has got a little fucking crazy, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. And then Sam Colt comes along and he's like, wait, what if I made the chamber rotate? And the earliest Colts are like the ball and powder revolvers, but they're still separate cylinders that are all right there, breech loading. So it's all a brilliant technique there. But like this gives him the ability to just have all of the myths and legends of Americana around guns, so he can perform things that are normally out of the question. Including, this is actually a reference to the TV show Supernatural, but in that show, they have a Colt called the Colt, which can kill ghosts. So, guess what? Sam Colt the Servant can kill ghosts with bullets. Like, his bullets have the ability to affect intangible, impossible targets because people have built up this mythology about the gun. And then lastly, Mass Production B, a skill previously seen on our boy Edison. The ability to rapidly produce items, a hallmark of Americana manufacturing. Sam Colt was an inventor. He was a proponent of interchangeable parts. Let him, produce larger amounts of weapons than normal. When combined with his gunsmith skill, he can, produce enough guns to equip an army. Probably another like team-wide buff. And I believe Edison's mass production is a self-charge on the battery. But like again, just he makes lots of guns rapidly. It's his whole deal. He produces guns. They're shiny. They're gold. Oh, thank you, Architect. Yes, that's a crazy one. I think at some point, Axe was wanting to get into that, because we have pepper boxes in our rain campaign. That's as advanced as firearms are. Like, he really wanted a lot of barrels for mechanical reasons, and I think I said no. The reasonable, this is probably like 8. This is 3, 4, 4.
I think that's 18.
6, yeah, and then 3 4s. Yeah, no, that is 18. That's too many. First of all, how do the pins work on this to fire all of those? Are you firing multiple barrels at once? Second of all, can you imagine the pain in the ass to take this thing, which is not that ergonomic, by the way, looking at this 18-shot pepper boxes. Yeah, there's
not
a few multi-barrels in, but they're usually like, I think it's because I think the gun-wielding class in 11 was called like Hex Gunner or something, or Hex Gun. Final Fantasy really likes a maximum of 6s. But yeah, like, this thing is not that ergonomic. So you're gonna have to, like, put this up on a table or something, or, like, hold it steady and load each and every one of those barrels with the shot and the powder cap and all that shit. No.
No, I'm personally a fan of just 2 or 3 barrels. If I get any more than that, I just think it looks fucking goofy as fuck.
Yeah, no, this is clearly absurd. Also, I'm just, like, I'm thinking about, like, again, maybe I've seen a few too many of Zach's gun rants and stuff, but this model has no trigger guard. It's just got a ring pull trigger. I'm just like, God, what if that gets caught on something?
You try to put it in your fucking holster on the pants, you just pull it and you just fucking blow off your foot.
Yeah. Or, you draw it and you accidentally slam it into the doorknob. Because, chat, you know people at home, you know how invasive doorknobs in. They are cursed objects. They will always find a way to squeak in there. So, but instead of like banging your knee or your elbow or hooking, your headphone cord back when headphones had cords on it, getting your phone cord hooked up in that, it's your gun trigger. No. Not great.
Not for it. Nope.
No. Colt system, much better. Especially, like I said, single action revolvers. I mean, it's a pain in the ass if you mainly cock the hammer, but that means it's, if you're not cocking the hammer and pulling the trigger, gun's safe.
I should probably get Eno's backup his double barrel pistol.
And a few offhand pistols would be good. Like I said, gunsmithing will come up as a question. I have character stuff about that, so we'll think about it. But hey, in case you can't imagine, the Noble Phantasm, one only, is the Colt Peacemaker, the Peacemaker, because That was a nickname. The nobody ever sold the Single Action Army as the Peacemaker, but it became to be called that. That's how reliable and efficient it is. But the subtitle, because all NPs have subtitle, is the quote I was talking about, which is a thing that is said about the nature of the revolver. God created man, Sam Colt made them equal. A real-life thing that is said. Usually it is exaggeration, but again, it is not to underestimate how much the idea of a affordable, repeating, assembly line made with interchangeable parts process the Colt revolvers were. There is a reason why, like, revolving mechanisms blow up everywhere, and why, even to this day, there are genuine arguments of, like, well, you know, if you want to make sure you have a mechanically simple gun that will probably never jam and is real easy to learn how to use, you can still get revolvers, and you can do all kinds of stuff with them. You can get little snub-nosed revolvers, because all the chamber action is in the cylinders. You can get big, honking, you know, revolvers the size of your forearm if you want to fire, you know, experimental magnum rounds out of them. It's a very diversified platform. So, this is a B-rank anti-personnel noble phantasm, but it's still the concept of the revolver, as produced by Sam Colt. This is where I wrote in my notes, literally the French word for revolver is Le Colt. The Single Action Army is called the gun that won the West. So it is, you know, a conceptual distillation of the revolver. I also put in my notes here, you know, the joke about, you know, 6 shots, more than enough to kill anything that moves. So it can perform trick shots. It's everything out there. Now, the Single Action Army was not fully developed when Colt was alive. It was a project the company was working on that got finalized, but the design, you know, would look more like a Colt Dragoon, which was the picture I showed earlier, or a Colt Walker. The Colt Walker is the state firearm of Texas and named after a famous Texas Ranger. That's right. The TV show is named after an actual historical Texas Ranger called Walker. But again, there's a lot of conceptual mythos to the gun. Sorry, it's just so funny. I assume Axe tabbed over because he's still in the other VC with some of the boys, but he talked about, I need to get Leslek one of these guns, it'll be funny. It goes back to me earlier talking about how he talked about wanting to get some very high number of barrels because reloading is a pain in the ass, but settling on a reasonable 6 or 8. And I do really like basically the pepper box of the revolver in reverse, the 6-shot, because there's some very satisfying stuff you can do. A lot of that does have to do with Critical Role's Legends of Vox Machina animated. One of the characters is a pepper box user, and just the animators for that show are fucking cracked out of their minds. They are busting ass every episode. So, like, there's a lot of beautiful, smooth animation of, you know, mechanics and gears turning. The fact that in that setting, the explanation of how everybody else is, you know, playing normal D&D rules and Percy has a pepper box is the fact that it's literally designed by, you know, a fucking Defrischitz-esque, you know, demonic contract, just making it all the more sinister. It is a hell gun. But yeah, so functionally the Colt Peacemaker is, you know, it is a powerful gun. It can hurt servants. It, you know, can do trick shots, so it's super accurate, you know, pierces through defenses. It is still conceptually limited by the concept of reloading. After 6 shots, there must be a delay because it is a conceptual weapon. Presumably, like most other servants with guns, he is reloading via mana, but even then, you know, it's part of the process. But I'm imagining, you know, a single target multi-hit attack very similar to Billy, though probably instead of Billy's is actually 3 hits, you know, go the full 6, just, you know, slam fire that son of a bitch. But probably a automatic sure hit or piercing effect, because it is just, you are creating a gun that does stuff that's, you know, not normal. Fire those, you know, magical piercing bullets, which can kill ghosts, which heroic spirits technically are. Literally, they're called ghost liners sometimes, because again, this is Fate. We have words for everything. You can, if you need to come up with a fancy new noun to call something in Fate, you got it. Trust me, it's there. So yes, again, a very simple effect. Like I kind of want to imagine Sam Colt, you know, wailing on the hammer fire style, the literal cowboy shooting, because it's neato.
Nito Burrito.
But there's a couple of different ways you can do. I admit I'm not exactly sure how we would, like, servant up with the Ascensions like Samuel Colt. We have a lot of normal portraits and engravings of just him guy, like, here.
Personally, I think you should start him out in the what years was he around? I'm thinking about that old like that late 1800s or I'm sorry, like again, when was he alive?
Born 1814, died 1862. So
so like the 1800s, gentleman's outfit, the nice slacks, the coats and stuff. He must have a actually.
Yeah, posted an engraving from what year was this done? It doesn't say right away.
Probably would clean up that hair and that mustache a bit.
Yeah, he's a little scraggly.
He's a little scraggly. Clean that up. But his final ascension should totally be him just being fucking, Metal Gear Solid 5 Revolver Ocelot.
Yes, the coat and the hat and the gloves.
Mm-hmm.
And in that game, Ocelot is a little scruffy. So yeah, no, like I said, this is just give him a normal like starting overcoat and some hair and stuff. Gotta get a cowboy
I think
hat.
his middle ascension would probably be him like in between, like maybe, he's dressed down a little bit, maybe put him in just, like the rolled up sleeves, a hat, suspenders.
Maybe make some working
clothes, and then third, he goes full.
Big band
because he's known as a businessman, but he's a gunman at heart.
Yeah.
So I think get a lot of that Western aesthetic on there. Get a lot of that 1800s fashion choice. Did he just do revolvers, or did he do any rifles?
He did do some rifle designs.
Yeah, then
he was a gunsmith and tried a few different ones. Obviously, the proper design was that, but there were like carbines with the revolving mechanism he tried to make, and worked on a few other long guns.
Definitely his animation should definitely pull out some different guns then, totally. But yeah, no, it's probably just going to be the revolver and his standard one.
Army, Navy, Derringers, even though those were like after his time. But the Colt Company has a wide variety. Like if you wanted to get in there, there's all kinds of shit you could do. Obviously,
I would say even though if they're made beyond his time, you still have access to them because he is the Colt Company.
Yeah, but that means you have access to the M1911 designed by John Moses Browning. The Colt Company made the produced a lot of the Thompson submachine guns, like the military models. They were not the sole designer, but they were production rights to the early M16s because they shut down the Springfield Armory. So like the Colt Company has built a lot of guns and has a lot of patents, and also they have a lot of big stonking revolvers, Dirty Harry guns. A lot of those are Colts, and they got some Smith & Wesson revolvers too.
Nah, quite interesting.
Yes, he's an interesting man. But that'll wrap up our Fanservant Friday. We do got a note on when the next one should be. Thank you for adding that. So we remember. And like I said, I'll run out the poll. So that means that at 2.5 hours, we got a few things to talk about.
Yeah.
Because there is some current stuff, no matter what. Let's see. How about we want to tackle this, Lucky?
We can probably knock out Girls Frontline 2 not too long. I think while we do have things to say, I don't think we'll necessarily get into the big nitty-gritty of things and whatnot.
Yeah, we don't.
So we
don't have to get into the exacting mechanics, I guess. We do usually, when you're previewing a new Gacha game you're checking out, we do sometimes get into the mechanics. But like honestly,
I'm not gonna have anything to say about Marvel Rivals because as cool as it seems, I'm going to pass on that shit. Yeah. No, I shouldn't say I'm not. I'm gonna pass on. I'm not gonna call it shit. I'm gonna pass on that gold. I guess I should not call it shit because it is the exact opposite of shit.
No, it's pretty solid. But yeah, Girls Frontline 2 is, like, honestly, talking about the mechanics, a lot of it's not really that deep. They're doing a lot of things that are very standard now in Gacha games, but honestly for its benefit. Oh. So, Girls Frontline 2, Exilium. It is a sequel. I won't say it's a direct sequel because it's not set immediately after, but it's a sequel after time skip.
10 years.
Yeah, cutting out a 10-year time skip. And, kind of taking that as an opportunity to reset things and start over. Give you a new pack of starting T-dolls. Give you a new setting. Kind of revamp the old setting. I've talked about this before, but aesthetically it's very interesting. I kind of feel like the aesthetics for a lot of the like enemies and environment design right now, at least in Girls Frontline 2, are very, I want to say, like Arknights light, which is very funny because I'm reasonably certain that the team that did Arknights split off from Mica Team, the makers of Girls Frontline.
It could be.
So it is kind of funny to see that back and forth, but like you mentioned it earlier, the original Girls Frontline was kind of ambiguously set somewhere in a base for your PMC Griffin Kruger. I'm pretty sure they probably set at some point where your home base was supposed to be, but it didn't really matter for like most of the game until it kind of really mattered later when like guys would like invade you and blow up your shit. But yeah, it was definitely like not as important. Now you have the Elmo, the mobile base vehicle, which is a mobile base, which is a vehicle.
It's like a giant train.
Yeah. One thing I will say that is to, not so that I'm talking about all positives all the time. One thing I have noticed in that other people have commented on, there are times when the dialogue or the translation of the dialogue is a little awkward, sometimes a little stilted.
Yeah.
Some of that is deliberate, in that there are a couple of characters who appear to like genuinely have an issue where they've got neural net stuff going on, so that they like either talk very flowery or like talk in a kind of roundabout ways. Like, I'm not exactly sure why Nemesis only talks in like poems, but she does. And it is apparently canonical that nobody but Krolik can understand what she actually means.
I think that's hilarious, personally.
Oh no, it's a great character dynamic, and I think that like honestly, as the player reading, you can usually tell like what direction Nemesis is going by her tone, because she repeats certain types of phrases a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of them have weird quirks, like Colfine?
Yeah, Colfine.
Colfine talks in a almost annoyingly upbeat way constantly. Colic is kind of rough, and Groza is a very professional tone most of the time.
Yes. And I think that makes sense because, like, I think also Nemesis, but Groza for sure is, I mean, her original designation is she was the
OT,
is it OTS 14 or OT 14?
Yeah, I think it was OTS 14, yeah.
Yeah, the OT small case S 14, Groza, which means storm, by the way, is actually a, like, super limited run, like, bullpup thing that they came up with. It was, like, built in the 90s. Actually, this is a fun fact I do know from Zach's Gun Rants. He talks about this, but the way the Russian Federation does military procurement is very different from America. The way the Russians, like, adopt firearms is somebody will come to them with a firearm patent. They'll be like, okay, cool, we'll test this out. They'll build, like, a few hundred and hand them out to, like, certain units, usually special forces or some other role. They'll, like, try it out for a few years, and then they'll be like, nah, usually, and just go back to an AK. So, yes, technically the Groza is actually a firearm that served in the Russian military, but they only used it for like a few years before it fell off, and it's basically out of production now. But Groza is its actual, like, subtitle, which apparently is meant to be the Russian word for storm. So that's cute. But she was an original doll that was in Girls Frontline 1, and some of it, I think, has to do with just the direction of the Girls Frontline 1's character story and the fact that, like, the game isn't over. We're going to presumably have a big, huge battle for the final chapter where, it may make sense where some of the classic T-Doll characters are, killed for good. I'm reasonably certain, if I understand the story, that M4A1 has, like, become the robot Jesus and, like, ascended to the space beyond spaces or something.
Honestly, this is one of the reasons why I think I'm going to go back to Girls Frontline 1. Just like, all right, I want to parse this.
Yeah, I'm reasonably certain that because they were the central characters and Girls Frontline was definitely made in that era of turbo-depressing gacha games, that, like, you're not going to see those girls for a while. I know for a fact, because I think I did actually play the story where there was, like, following up on that, but M16 switched sides. Like, she went rogue AI and joined Sanguiferi or some of the other guys. Sopmod was, like, blown up and briefly embodied in a dinner gate. I think she did get a body back, but...
No, I think it wasn't Sopmod who was put into a dinner gate. It was, No, because it was, I think it was Sopmod who carried around.
That may have been it. And they added a fifth
but...
girl later, who was one of the HK clones. But like I said, they had a lot of things going on with the goilies. But like, I think you can reasonably expect that you're not going to see anybody out of AR team as it was anytime soon. But Persica is a character. Technically, she's on screen kind of as a recording in one of the earlier campaign missions. And as I joked, I said she's still around because she sent me a fucking marriage ring on my first day. Persica.
Yeah, no, I can tell you, 404 is still there with UMP 5 and UMP 45.
Oh yeah, I'm in the middle of chapter 4, so yeah, the 404 girls are coming back. They've gone off the grid. But other than that, we're kind of in a space of like who comes back, who doesn't. I don't know. Judging by the amount of internet interest, I'm gonna assume that Groza was a decently popular T-doll design from 1. There seem to be a decent number of people with a baked-in appreciation, but I think also the kind of like time skip restructuring, like you said, Groza's in a very good way to kind of like be the anchor point character. Most of the other dolls refer to her as leader. She's kind of taking that position. She is an assault rifle, type doll. Her special attack is the grenade launcher, though I love that it's an underbarrel grenade launcher, but she's carrying it like a fucking pistol because it's funnier that way.
Isn't that just a straight up M203?
I mean, it sure looks like it. That may be what they use for the model. Because it looks like it's got the almost pump like breach action. The Russian underbarrel grenade launchers are like side loaders. You like pop out the breach. So yeah, it looks a lot like an M203 that she's just carrying in her pocket.
That's what it looked like, but I thought that was a little weird. I was like, wait a minute.
I mean, it is. That's a way you can use them, certainly. But yeah. So you have a view, and I gotta say, like, you brought it up, I do like, she's a little bit of a later addition. You have to go through a couple chapters to get her, but Colfine is a very funny addition to the team. I do kind of like her characterization as the super hyper sweet, big smiles, double peace, oh, Commander, shouldn't we do this? And then, like, the Commander is a 2-year vet of Girls Frontline 1 and a 10-year vet of being a bounty hunter. Your character is constantly telling her, stop that. Colfine, I told you don't have to do that. Don't do that shit in front of me.
And I do like it that every once in a while she just, breaks the character and she's just like, yes. It's like, oh.
Oh, and there's a great, speaking about the production values, the 3D cutscenes, there's a great cutscene with her later and, like, one of the antagonist characters that I'm just like, damn. While she's still doing her fucking act. But yeah, so we rapidly build a crew. Your kind of like token human assistant is now taken up by Mei Ling, who is,
she's good at what she does, but she's also kind of a good girl failure.
Yes, no, I think she is. We have firmly decided to lean into the girl failure tropes. She is like a big whoopee. She's a huge crybaby, always sniffling at stuff. Whether it's like she's crying because you're gonna fucking die because mutant monsters are trying to eat your face, or she feels like, you're gonna get mad at her because you're running out of parts to repair your expensive giant base, and you're gonna take her rice wine away.
Because she's, taking her rice wine away.
Because, yes, she is an alcoholic. If you go to the public area, the default, it's just her pouring cups of rice wine and drinking them. Like, so yeah, like, you have an eclectic crew. And I want to say tone-wise, I was a little worried we were gonna start, like, super deep on the depression train. Cause, like, you do have your dark and brooding opening section prologue. You start in media res with some deeper stuff going on. Where I'm at in the story, the campaign has not looped back around to that point yet. We're getting close, though.
Yeah, no, it's close. I passed that point.
Okay, good. So it does loop around. I've kind of pinged around a little in my clearing the campaign, but I've been, for considering it came out like Wednesday, Thursday.
It was more than that. It was like 4 days ago. I think it was that like Tuesday. Because I said
Tuesday. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was Tuesday because I'm on like day 3 because I'm 1 day behind everybody who started.
I don't remember the exact day, but I've been playing it a lot like a blur. But I've been bouncing around from like trying out the event maps and stuff, as well, and also working on a few things because they got some stuff going on, as usual from a game. But like tonally, you start with like you're on a weird spooky job. It takes a while for you to figure out you are the same commander, but you are a bounty hunter now with brief. Because like I said, the tone and way they're handling the setting has shifted. Like all this stuff about the ELIDs and the collapse radiation and stuff, that was all in the backstory to the original game, but it was very much a backstory to kind of explain like why they'd had a World War III and why they were developing like robot warfare platforms that don't need to worry about horrible alien space radiation and shit.
Well, yeah, Girls Frontline 1 was all about basically the restructuring of the world's government and the Sangaveris rebellion. Like,
Yes.
that was the major
Sanguiferi developed like fully autonomous TDOL like technology, like drones that were completely separate from commanders and operators. And they did a little rebellion. Probably because they touched some alien stuff. Because there's alien stuff in this, by the way. That's it's a full, not just a future setting, it's a full-blown alternate history because, like, the Russians found alien goo in the ground in, like, the, pre-World War I times. They just didn't do anything with it for a while. But, like, all that was part of the backdrop, and Girls Frontline 2, it is much more part of the foreground. Like, obviously some of that has to do with the time skip, like, all the loading screens have, like, classic tooltips of, like, in this year or that year, they reorganized the government, and the new, UNRC has, like, developed this project plan to start, like, removing contaminated areas and purifying them and removing the ELIDs. So you've got, like, green zones, yellow zones, and then, the outside, the hot zones. And, kind of, like, instead of working with PMCs, now, while there are still private security companies, now it seems like a lot of the action is, like, individual, like, bounty hunters who are part of this network, which is what you are. And, you do odd jobs kind of all over the place because it's not outright stated, but it is implied certainly that, like, while this is a very good project that's going on to, like, reclaim the Earth and clean up all this radiation and stuff, it is not something that is, like, easily done with the logistics. You do actually, like, run into a couple of, like, proper military guys, and they do, bitch and moan about how tough their postings are because they're not part of, the favored shiny regimes.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. There's also, like, the Great Barrier Wall and the Barrier Railway and stuff, So they have, like, literally giant walls to keep the radiation of the monsters out with a giant train that runs along them. And covering a lot of ground, too, so it's, like, really big and bold. But you start the game by being on a random job. You've got a magical box that's got stuff in it. You're kind of minding your own business. You take a park, and then some, as I describe them, stalker-ass looking ass guys.
Some banditos.
The Varaganyers? Not right.
I think it's like
not quite
Vanagan.
sure. The Varageners? I don't know. They're stalker-ass guys. They're literally all wearing gas masks and, like, army surplus and stuff, and have, like, bootleg chunky AKs with the biggest, fattest bayonet on the end. Like, the T-dolls are fairly realistically proportioned, and the models for their guns are pretty detailed. Presumably to make room for, like, all the attachments you can attach, which are actually tracked in real time. They actually go on your gun models. And they will have, one of the cosmetics they do is skins, so you can, honestly, probably a decent move knowing how hype skins are in shit like COD and Counter-Strike. Like, a good move for the kind of game they're building to add different cosmetics that way. But, like, those guys, the bandits, have, like, very exaggerated guns. But they, like, rappel in, kick down your door, blow up your T-dolls, like, double tap Groza on the floor where she was talking to you, grab you and pull you out and stuff. And at first, it gave me a little bit of like, that moment of, like, oh, are we doing, like, a... Because, it takes a second to realize that the intro was in media res, and I was kind of worried, like, oh, are we doing kind of like a... Oh, you gotta rebuild up from nothing? Yeah, kind of still, but it's very different than, like, just you get your shit pushed in. You're, like, kidnapped and stuck in a Humvee, and then the guy is like, I don't think you understand the position you're in. You don't have any dolls or base or anything. You're out of options. And the commander just goes, oh, am I? Am I out of options?
Like, I will say, Girls Frontline 2 isn't, like, feeding you the depression, but it is feeding you the serious.
Yes, it has a serious tone, and, like, and I think it befits the setting of, like, I feel like for a game that is properly embracing its kind of, like, post-apocalyptic type nature, honestly, dude does calling it, some stalker elements not crazy with, like, the exclusion zone and stuff in those games, but, like, it is a game that feels like it is much more about the kind of, like, survival and resource growing and kind of, like, that sort of networking stuff. Most of the T-dolls and the people from the old life are polite enough to call you Commander, still. And I will say this is something that surprised me, but I am glad about, is that while the Commander was kind of a character who got more agency as Girls Frontline went on, Girls Frontline 2 treats you as a real character right from the start.
Yes.
The commander is not like a playable unit like some of the directions like MiHoYo goes, but you are a character who is present. There is versions of your model that is in cutscenes. You can still be, male or female. You have a lot of voiced lines, and like you do shit in cutscenes. Your character is carrying a gun, a Glock, I think, actually, based on some of the cutscenes I saw later. But like, so you're not just like, the completely faceless behind the scene character. The commander is a real person in this world, doing things, being part of these discussions, and that I think is another like really good aspect of the focus to like make it feel more serious, feel more real, but also, like I said, not go quite so ham on the depression right out the gate of like, yeah, you do get rolled over, but it's not like an immediate like, haha, you have nothing. It's like, okay, you're a little beat up, you're hurt for resources, you got to dip into your backlog, but a couple of your dolls get pulled from backup right away. Takes you a little while to get a backup body for, Krolik out of storage. But you start adding to the team, you get your vehicle up and running. It is a, like, constant part of the narrative that, the Elmo can't run forever. It has to stop for repairs, or you gotta refuel. But it's all, like, very doable. And you kind of... It does the very classic trope of, like, you all get swept up in the job that's too good to be true, right?
Yep.
Like, it's Act 1 of Cyberpunk 2077, it's Johnny Mnemonic, it's so many of these classic stories. There's so many, Lone Wolf and Cub type shit where you're minding your own business, and just you get pulled into something much more bigger and complicated, and, there's a lot of conspiracy stuff going on, which there was in the original Girls Frontline, but I feel like that's another one that kind of, like, the conspiracy type stuff kind of took a back leg until it got pushed more forward in the later story chapters that I remember either very vaguely or didn't get to because the game was hard. So, like, we do a very different tone and a little bit different aesthetics to, like, the enemies and setting, but I think all of the girls still fit into the original art style and design plan very well, right? Like, obviously, Groz is a legacy character. I assume Nemesis is as well. She's named after an obscure bolt-action 50 BMG rifle.
Yep. Actually, I think I don't even know if that next had a name. I think the Nemesis was the name of the company that made it, I think.
Yeah, it's it's referred to as the something like OT something Nemesis rifle. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what Krolik's name means or why Kolfine is called Kolfine, but
I will say something that is interesting in here is that the dolls now, some of them just take new names. They've done that. Like the 404 girls, UMP5 and UMP 45 go by the names like Lena and Leva now.
Yeah. And I love the line of dialogue that, like, they had a moment to pick new names, and you're meeting Lena, who used to be 9, and she's like, yeah, I couldn't come up with a name for the longest time, but Leva, that's 45. She helped me pick this name. I picked Leva for her, so it's like, they're basically twins, right? They're sister units.
Sisters.
They're if you know, the UMP, they're literally were based off using both the same model of gun, just chambered in different calibers. So naturally, they picked each other's names that are matching in theme. It's very cute.
Yeah, no, like WA 2000 now goes by Macchiato.
And
that's what I'm waiting for, by the way.
Yeah, this is one of those things that I'm not sure like how they decided to pick this, because like we said, Groz's name was part of the name for the gun she was like the platform assigned to, but we just dropped the numbers from. Nemesis is really what you do. Mosin Nagant is still Mosin Nagant. That was my doing the little starter guaranteed elite, the beginner.
Mine was Sabrina, but she uses a that's a name change. It's
yes, because she's Sposs 12 in the original game. I don't know if they just decided to pick an Italiano name that sounded good. Sabrina. She eats the pizza.
Well, no, I honestly think that is like her unique weapon is called the Mezzaluna, which is that Italian large knife, that double-handled.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, like I said, it's. And I assume that has to do with, again, some of the tooltips talk about how, like, after the whole Girls Frontline 1 business, like, a lot of restrictions happened on T-dolls. They've, like, they've produced less new patents and approved less new designs. And I wonder if, like, less T-dolls are getting made overall, so a lot of the girls, as we see them now, are, like, they already were individuals, but they're, like, they've individuated more, and there's been, like, a few conversations about, like, rights and stuff. One of the things that's really interesting about the event story we've got going on right now.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of a side story with a couple of the other girls, like Urid and Suomi. They've basically formed like a. I guess actually I should compare it to like an old timey like pirate crew. Like they all like hold votes in the process.
Yeah, no, they refer to themselves as a doll collective.
Yeah, and like Ulrid is given like tactical leadership because she's got that kind of skill set, but she still like stops down and takes votes on what direction they're going for stuff.
Yeah, that has its own problems, but that's part of the story.
Yeah. And that story also involves is it NVKD? One of the big anti-tank rifle girls like literally has like lost her memory and has to like repick her name. Somebody mentions like the nickname she was using before. So yeah, the girls have names. I wonder if this is designed to basically, like, my thought process here is this is probably designed to make the game more marketable because, one, firearms manufacturing companies over the years have gotten a lot more sensitive about technically their, like, patented and trademarked names being used willy-nilly by video games. If you've ever wondered why, like, usually big games like COD will probably do some licensing, but also have to come up with fake names for some stuff. Metal Gear Solid 5, I remember, despite usually those games being very realistic about their designs, like, went to all completely fictionalized guns that are, like, greebled together from a couple different designs for most things. So, like, it's genuinely been a trend that, like, firearms manufacturers have been a lot more, like, litigious or specific about their rights, so I wonder if, like, switching from the serial numbers and military designations to name-type names works, and obviously the Mosin Nagant is ancient. It's fucking, like, was made pre-World War I, so you can call her Mosin Nagant. The Nagant revolver is also just Nagant. That's definitely not confusing. One of them is Mosin Nagant, one of them is Nagant. Perfectly normal. But, like, WA-2000 is not a moniker that rolls off the tongue, whereas, like, Macchiato is, much easier to do some marketing for, I wonder. But they did at least work it into the story that is, like, genuinely part of the process is, like, a lot of these retired T-dolls are now basically in the private sector, and so, because of the way the neural cloud works, like, most of them have all their memories and shit backed up, and so they're all still the same people, so they need, like, individual names.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a slightly aesthetic change, but also works out really well. And like I said, all the visuals are pretty in there. I do want to say I think they're obviously acknowledging, kind of like what things are, what direction Gacha games have gone. I think I said that a couple of the costume designs feel very Nikkei core. I've talked about, like, several of the girls are wearing a lot of, like, skin tight, full, pantyhose type bodysuits with lots of butts showing. Nemesis literally has a gap in her cape.
Listen, it is definitely Nikkei core. There is a mini event in the event which is just Nikkei. It is literally just Nikkei.
Yeah, so
you have a character.
Go ahead, describe it.
It's like, well, I mean, if you've seen Nikkei gameplay, it is literally that.
Yeah,
you have a character.
It's a cover shooter.
Yeah.
But like, and uses the jiggle physics and stuff, which the models are rigged for anyway. I have noticed, Mosin Nagant, breast boobily when she salutes and stuff. Like, they know what they're doing for their art style. Their marketing very much knows lots of, like, focus on the angles in the dormitory and very interesting animations. But the designs themselves are not quite as, not yet anyway, not as overtly horny as, like, Azure Lane goes or some of the, like, Nikkei costumes. Like, I think they want the girls to seem, presentable and professional on the surface, but we can still get not just fan servicey, but even get a little weird later down the line. So they're building in their levels, their layers.
They do have some interesting design choices. Like, I like the design of Suomi a lot. With her winter design, and she also carries the big ass lantern.
Yes,
like, I always think that's rad. Krolik, as a part of Krolik character that she really likes bunny ears. She actually hates it when she doesn't have them.
Yeah, so she's dressed up in a bunny costume like all the time. Like I said, like, honestly, Nemesis's design is very, like, almost like quiet styled. Like I said, she's got, like, the full body, like, pantyhose and lots of straps everywhere, and she's wearing a cloak. But we do a wide variety of designs. I can see it because I'm idling on the title screen right now. I monitor, but Gurosa's got the cool long coat design with, like, the tack harness, but she's got, like, hot pants and then the asymmetric stockings. One leg's higher than the other.
Like, trust me, I fully believe that they will get more horny on main with their costumes, because while Girls Frontline 1 didn't go, like, super crazy, they weren't necessarily afraid of showing some skin.
No, their costumes definitely could get very much in there. And, like, they had a lot with, like, old school damage sprites, again, talking about, like, the way Gacha games have changed. And also, a lot of the girls went through, like, redesigns and stuff, because some of their designs in the older were very straightforward. But yeah, it's kind of a thing, like I said, where I feel like they're building up to it appropriately. They're not trying to market themselves necessarily full on as, as horny as, Nikkei or Azure Lane or even games that are even more horny than we said. Like, you talk about Haze Reverb. Like I said, I've seen some screenshots. So screenshots from that game have had to be posted in our Not Safe for Work channel. So, like, but they are still leaving the room where, like, if you're in the privacy, you can play Girls Frontline 2 in public, but if you're in the privacy of your own home, you want to tab over to dorm and, like, you can see some shit. I've seen the trailers for, like, some of those funny interactions, like, Groza up, like, working on her wall, but, like, it's in her, like, training outfit, the dorm dress, so it's short, and she, like, tugs the corner so you can't look kind of stuff. But yeah, like, the aesthetics are still very recognizable, but also we're doing new stuff. And I kind of appreciate that. Like, I think it's good of them doing a sequel to, like, step away. They're still, you've got some Dinner Gate enemies. They're super Dinner Gates now. And you've got some of the, like, mil-spec, Metal Gear-ass robot guys. But there are the bandits you can fight, and now you can actually see the ELIDs, the mutant animals.
Yeah. Goliaths are still there, by the way. They will blow up on you.
Yep. Now watch out for those guys. But you can, because it's the XCOM style gameplay, you can tactically blow them up too.
Yeah.
Wipe out enemy squads. And there are, we haven't really acknowledged it yet, but there are, enemy T-dolls who are very SF pilled. Sextens and Darlene are, like, very much the classic SF enemy doll aesthetics.
Apparently those are the 3rd generation T-dolls, from what I understand. Your T-dolls are 2nd generation.
Yeah, they did. That's another loading tip. They mentioned that I think a couple of years ago, 16 Lab came up with a new gen of T-doll. But also, there's a lot of, like, technobabble to upgrade, and we're doing all the good stuff with the plot to set you up so that the campaign can go places and do things. But also, you have an excuse to just go off and do whatever. You're a bounty hunter now, and you got to stay fed, and you got to keep your T-dolls in parts and memory sticks. Again, I love that that's your default gift item, because there is an affinity system, is just you give T-dolls mem sticks.
Yep.
They can get special gifts and other affinities too, but like I said, your normal consumable is just feed them memory sticks. The more memory you give them, the more they like it. But that gives them a reason to do a lot of events and stuff without necessarily always being all save the world all the time. But they've got all the classic hallmarks. You've got a weird box that has a waif in it. You see very early. You've got obviously your old, like, coworkers to catch up with, and they're probably going to be other, old enemies and friends to see. I did note that one of the tooltips they had says that after they were defeated, SF's patents were put in the public domain, which obviously, like, my brain is instantly like, oh, so we have an excuse to, like, bring back classic SF, like, boss character designs as Gacha characters. Got it. Perfect excuse. Especially because they did eventually add a system where you could, like, capture enemy SF dolls and, like, turn them into your squad in Girls Frontline 1. But yeah, a lot of the outerlying mechanics are all the stuff you'd expect from, like, current games. The construction timers and stuff is gone. In fact, almost everything that is timer-based has been removed, for better or for worse, mostly for better. How many of you queued up a 12-hour build on a shotgun or machine gun girl and actually waited all 12 hours? You didn't spend those quick play reports. I remember how it was. So, you have your normal gacha. Your filler is indeed weapons. Though yes, you do have, junk weapons of different rarities filling up most slots, but there are still uses for that. Not only can you calibrate them to make, multiple copies worth something, but also you can mass disassemble them for a type of currency, which you can exchange into a variety of things that will reset monthly. So, like, it's not, like, all, like, just, pack fill. You've got a few different things you can get in there. Like, you can buy gold, which is kind of another generic currency you can use for a few things. Collapse fragments are your, like, I don't even want to call it premium currency. It's like, it is the currency you can convert into permissions to roll the gacha and refill your stamina, which is called intelligence puzzles.
No, collapse pieces are basically your free currency.
Yeah.
There is a pay currency, which are like these little credit coin things.
Yes. So yeah, that's probably the better one. It's your free currency, and the credit tokens, they're called. Just open up the shop to check. Is your premium currency. So you've got, a little of both. I do want to say it has a little bit of that like modern gacha-ism that I've seen in a lot of other games, like when I tried Zenless, where like you technically have two kinds of gacha currency. You have your standard access permissions, which is for your like standard procurement anything gacha, and then you also have the targeted permission, which is how you get access to targeted banners. They have a couple going on right now, one for Suomi and one for Ulrid. Ulrid's character design is much more my speed, but I did go all in on Suomi so far just because everybody's reporting that Suomi is like the Castoria of Girls Frontline 2. She is a high-power defensive unit that is still good, months and months later down the line in CN. So they're like, I think the Chinese version's been out for almost a year. So that was definitely like there's nothing wrong with her, so we'll go in on this. We gotta rate up. And I will say, at least looking ahead, based on what the wiki has posted, this does not seem like a game where they've gone crazy adding new units. Like, it does seem to have the problem that a lot of gacha games do, where I think every character I've seen that's been added later is a 5-star. I don't think they've added any 4-star units so far, but they could. And that, like I said, this could just be lag in like the different servers, like communicating to them. Because they do have some event exchangeable. You can already get one exchangeable event. You can get Lotta out of the store for the currently limited time event going on, Sojourners from Glass Island. So they've got all the gacha mainstays. Your dolls do have classes, but now they are much more like, I want to say like, not even like normal gacha game rules, but just like normal video game rules in general. And they're not like exactly set what the roles do, but they are general vibes. You've got, bulwarks for like defensive units. You've got, what is it? Yeah, vanguards are kind of like your high speed units. I think they're not all melees, but most of your melees are vanguards. You've got supports who are mostly healers and buffers, but can also do a few different things. And then sentinels are kind of your long range type girls. And I will say this, I like this. Every T-doll has like a couple of tags for like what their roles are, like 2 or 3. So for instance, Groza is stability, defense, counterattack. She is a tank who boosts your stability stat and counters. Krolik is tagged melee damage / debuff. That's what she does. There you go. Kulfine is assist and heal and stability regen. So if you're not unsure what a doll does, they give you a little boilerplate. But I think this is good because this was like a weird thing about the original one that I remember is that team comp could get a little odd sometimes, where like normal handgun girls were like super low on the DPS, but often had like abilities to like single out enemies or do support stuff you needed.
Usually handgirls did a lot of buffs.
Yeah.
They would buff other units. I remember this.
And this is still kept because most of the handgun I think all the handgun T-dolls in the game right now are all supports, but they all do different support stuff, whereas like regular RF rifles were, big single target damage but slow fire rate. ARs were usually more mixed. They do still keep that, but they do it in a variety of ways. Like I said, like shotgun girls I think are mostly going into like the Vanguard role of like up close and personal, whereas rifles are going in there. It seems like they can move AR around because like I will say this, I do think there is a little bit of mismatch in the kind of like the way they spread the roles. Like there are very few, I think, bulwarks and vanguards. There are a lot of sentinels and supporters to pick from ultimately, but they do kind of spread them around a little so they're not quite so fixed just by their gun type. Also, I think it is preferred that you give a girl her iconic gun, but I think technically, if I'm reading this right, you can give T-dolls who can equip the right class of weapon different guns in that same class.
Yeah, it seems like it.
I don't know why you would do that unless you're like, you get a really good high rarity gun for a class and you don't have the T-doll that like gets the best synergy with it. But they have little skill stuff. They have an attachment system you can get into. You no longer have to gacha attachments. That's just a special thing you can farm. one thing I do like about that, because I unlocked that earlier today, is that attachments have a set bonus, and when farming, you get to pick what set bonus you want to spawn, so you don't have to, like... It's still, like, RNG about, like, which parts you get, but you don't have to worry about getting mismatching set bonuses if you don't want to. So that's cool. And they use all the normal stuff you'd expect. You feed your girls combat reports to level them up. Once they reach a certain level, it's 20 is the starting one. You got to uncap them through a different material. You can improve their fortification to increase their skill levels by getting extra copies. But they also have the neural helix, which is a more conventional skill tree type system. This gets you access to like just generic passive buffs, and also little equipable skills you can pick, which give you other bonuses. Like, for instance, I've just opened Mosin Nagant's line here, so like she's got normal ones for like increased attack and defense, and then pick an evolved node to unlock prepared defenses. When you deal electric damage, you apply paralysis for 1 turn instead of connectivity, which you can equip if you want. And then there's another one in that node, which is if a target has paralysis, the stability damage they take is increased by 2 points. And to very briefly talk about like the actual game mechanics, it's just XCOM, basically. It is a kind of isometric view, square-based tactical shooter. You look for positions that have cover, which is usually half cover or full cover. Exceptionally, full cover will also block line of sight. Shooting at enemies that are in cover means you don't do dick for damage, but everybody, including you, have a stability stat, which when your stability stat runs out, you only get some of the benefits of, like, the minimum possible benefits from cover, and also other stuff happens usually. So you can, like, whittle down enemies who are in hardened cover. You can also flank them. You can get height advantage by going up, but you also got to watch out, because sometimes that means you don't got cover, kind of a thing. Each T-Doll has 4 skills. You usually have normal attack. You have, like, one kind of special attack. Then you have another skill, which could be a buff, could be another attack, depending on their role. And then you have your big ultimate. All of these require convergence to use, which is just like your little skill resource that you get by letting them do wombo combos and working together and just naturally generating. The game is talking about, like, we talked a little bit about how much depth it has earlier. They've added a lot to depth, but in a way that's, like, you don't really got to go ham figuring it out, Like I mentioned earlier, they have elemental damages now. Why? I don't know, because we have elemental damages. It's a gacha game. Convergence. When in doubt, blame convergence radiation. But so, you might think, oh, is that really complicated to keep track of? No. Enemies display their elemental weaknesses right on their little tactical bar, and the T-Dolls will display what damage they do if you hover over them, their skills. So it's really easy to figure it out, like where the different damage types line up, what they do. There are a decent number of, like, buffs and debuffs, which the exact mechanics I have not yet unfurled, but generally it's the kind of thing where, like, you can kind of figure it out, Like, Krolik, for instance, does, like, every time she ends her action, does, like, a little AoE bubble, which if enemies are in it, they get burned. What does burn do? They do damage over time, obviously. And, you can stack that with a few different things. Groza can give your party, like, extra big cover defenses. All of it flows pretty well, and I haven't ever yet felt like I didn't understand what was going on with, like, my buffs and debuffs. And you can all hover them. It has an auto battle. The auto battle is not stupid.
It's a little stupid.
Yeah, the auto battle is not a conservative auto battler, I should say. I have noticed that when doing, like, quick runs for, like, to just farm, like, dailies, simulations for materials I've done a couple times, it doesn't really like to move out of AoEs immediately, which you don't have to move out of every AoE immediately, but, normally I would prefer not to, but I do think the game is kind of, like, estimating you will be maybe a little more aggressive than I play, because almost every map has, like, one of their side objectives is don't lose more than 1 doll. And, like, if you're playing properly, that should not really be a risk. But the auto is smart enough to, like, target enemy weaknesses and use skills and, like, focus AoEs and mostly make you not die. I don't think I've failed an auto fight yet. And obviously, as you get more complex, that's going to be less reliable. But it does mean that if you're doing, like, farming stuff, you can just put in your team, push the button, and it'll play itself,
Especially since I got Suomi, I've been fairly reliable with auto battle. As long as I don't try and go in, like, more than, like, 3 levels above me. It's usually pretty good. I have not failed a map yet.
Yeah, and that's what I would say is I think that's another thing is just make sure you're keeping up on your leveling up to match your commander level because your girls are capped to your level as well. But if you keep current on your leveling and, you make sure when you do get new guns and shit, you're like, the girls get the latest stuff, make sure to uncap them, feed their neural interface and stuff. The auto battler should probably not fuck up and get you killed most times. There's a pretty in-depth tutorial system that you can go through for tchotchkes, and I recommend. Teaches you about all kinds of little mechanical modifiers and stuff, how to do team-ups and things. The game is interesting because, like I said, the gameplay is basically baby XCOM. You don't really have a wide variety of team-wide commands. Every unit has its own individual commands, but you can't do stuff like, everybody can pick to do, like, Overwatch and stuff like that. Instead, what it is different T-Dolls have different passives, so that's where you get your, like, Overwatches and supporting fire and interception fire and stuff. So depending on who you got on your squad, if your T-Dolls are close enough, they'll either fire before or after their buddies, like follow-up or lead-up attacks. They will counterattack enemies who attack them or allies, or even fire before enemies fire. Always very funny when you're doing that setup and a guy, like, runs up to shoot somebody in the face and the T-Doll just turns and caps them. So, like, at first I was like, oh, this is kind of minimal, but then I was like, oh, no, it's just all in, like, passives and stuff. I don't pick to go on Overwatch. I just know that if somebody shoots at Groza, she'll shoot back once per round, and you get follow-up shots. So it's all pretty straightforward. It's not super stressful yet.
There is something that I am curious about. I'm going to cut a Meg off so I can talk.
Go for it.
Like, in the opening tutorials, there was one battle where you got to do, like, a tactical level attack where you basically took a drone and you did a fucking airstrike. I have not seen that show up again. I'm kind of hoping that it does, because I thought that was pretty fucking rad.
Yeah, I forgot about that for a sec, but you're right. You got to call it like an airstrike. That probably will be like limited to certain map types, but maybe that's like a resource. Because I don't know how they'd import it, but that was a thing that they eventually added to the old game was some of the girls could be like arty, could be crew-served weapons, right?
Yeah.
So like that could be another thing you could pick. You've said that there are some maps later, because I haven't caught up that far, but they go up to 5 T-Doll slots.
Yeah, it's nothing in the campaign. It's one of the side content. I can't necessarily remember what it's called because it's not overwhelming, but there is a fair amount, and you're unlocking it in waves.
Yeah, the wave thing I think is another one of those like modern Gacha isms that we just do. We don't throw all the shit at you at once, but also that means we keep you hooked, so you keep going back, so you can get more currency. Meh. But yeah, it is a game that has fairly robust content for having like launched this week. You've got the Hunter Assessment, which is the tutorial. The campaign has 6 chapters in it so far. You have obviously your whole supply missions. You've got the combat simulations, which they have a wide variety of things you can do, including the expansion drills, which are like I guess the aesthetic here is it's kind of similar to the like Annihilation maps from Arknights. They're like high-level content stages you can try out that have ongoing rewards that reset after a while.
I think it was the expansion drills that gave you 5, I think.
I could see that if they are the more high-level one. There's also these things called neural surveys, which are just how you get stuff, but also how you get lore. But also there are, in main story modes, there are just side maps to get collectibles to unlock more lore. The story and setting is fairly in-depth. I have not, like, taken the time as I've been blitzing through content to, like, side read everything, but there's a lot of little stuff going on here that's very interesting.
No, the whole Girls Frontline has several stories and different entries into it. It is a universe right now, and I don't know I can't remember what they call it. I don't know if they call it the like Frontline universe or something, but no, there's a lot of little stuff going on in there.
But yeah, I think that all works to like, again, like you said, it's not overwhelming. It's just you have a lot of content you can go through. They're already running a time limited event, but it's running for like 25 days.
I will get in on it. There is some good stuff.
Yeah, like I said, I've been chipping away at that a little today because some of it will unlock later. But yeah, it's definitely like these guys know what they're doing to do a production, and it's all very smooth. And like I said, you do have a reason to get redundant T-Dolls that they become little neural datas which you can use to upgrade their fortification, which increase your skill levels if you want to be like super optimal. But also it doesn't seem like the level ups are like so impinged that you have to go balls to the wall and get how many fucking hold on.
There's like 6 or something.
Yeah, I clicked the wrong button. I clicked time limit event, not fair. Let's go fortification. There's 6 segments. So you start at segment 1. So yeah, that's you would need 5 total copies after your first one to get all the way there. But they are 30 points each time, so it doesn't like get exponentially higher. But also, like I said, it's scattered throughout your skills, so it's like not crazy important to get it, but it will do better for you. And I think that's gonna like give you some reason to use some of your 4-star dolls over your 5 stars, because unless you're spending a lot of money in this game, you're probably not easily getting 5 copies of your Elite T dolls.
Probably not, no.
So they've got several systems in place. So all in all, it's a good one. I would recommend you take a crack at it. Like I said, it's fun. Even though you can auto battle, like I said, it's just XCOM, so I like picking it. That's why I got into it at first when I saw the like previews, the gameplay previews. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna have to at least give this game a try because I like these kinds of like turn-based tactical shooters. I'm gonna have to at least try it out. And then, like I said, I've been playing and I'm like, no, this is just really well written. Like I don't feel miserable right out the gate from the story writing, while also, like Lucky said, still like it's got the kind of like drama and hooks where you're like, man, I want to know what happens next. What's going on, man? Why are the cops after me? Who's this fuckboy? Yes, our first well, not our first antagonist. The very first antagonist, I guess, who's named is the Voyager boss, who's just Gas Mask Man. But like the antagonist with the character design you first get is just absolutely an anime fuckboy. It's okay. Colfine bullies him in a cutscene. It's fine. So like I said, you should check it out. And if you're into like hanging out, they've like again refined that system so well. Doesn't really seem like you get to customize the dormitory as such anymore. We're kind of moving away from that, but each girl does have a dorm that seems to have her own individual things going on. Rose has got some fucking cactuses she watches and stuff, and they can go through different poses and outfits. They got gun skins, they got girl skins, they got all the stuff you'd expect, and like I said, wrapped in a very fairly decent gameplay package. So let's see. In that case, because technically this would have been before GFL 2 dropped, but you actually did acquire P3R, as you said.
I love how you just keep moving on. Like, I haven't basically had any chance to say anything because I didn't want to interrupt your flow.
Okay. My flow's very meandering tonight.
It is. Like, Omega, I really don't want to be the guy that just, like, goes, Omega, shut up so I can talk. That's very rude. I do not want to be a rude person, but man, you gotta learn to say, hey, Lucky, what's your thoughts? Or, what do you think about this, Lucky?
Well, as I do usually do at the end, but you're right. I'm probably drifting on from Girls Frontline too fast. Anything else you got to say about that make any grammatical sense? That's where I'm at right now, chat. What do you got done be saying about Girls Frontline 2?
So, you were talking a lot about the modern gacha systems, and this is something that I realized about Girls Frontline 2 that I find pretty interesting, considering both these games came out in the same year. But Girls Frontline 2 actually has a lot of similarities in its design philosophy to Snowbreak, Containment Zone. Another gun girl-based post-apocalyptic kind of shooter. Instead of where Girls Frontline kind of went to XCOM, Snowbreak went kind of that third person, I wouldn't say over the shoulder shooter, but behind shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just a third person shooter. Now, so hang on, I just had to grab a screen real quick here. Like, something that like really stuck out to me is like their event page is like stupid fucking similar. Like, and like how things are placed on it. And I'm just like, wow, that is really, really similar in a freaky way. So, I went and grabbed Snowbreak's event screen right now. This is the event that they have going on right now, which is Sands of Secrets. It features Frita, very cute. But if you can see like how everything is located on here, let me see if I can pull up.
Yeah, it's not an identical UI. I've got them side by side on different monitors, but if you pull up the like splash page for Sojourners of the Glass Island, it's a very similar style.
It's a very similar style. Like, you have your main story in the lower left. You have your shop in the you have your main story in the lower right. You have the shop and stuff in the lower left, and then you have all your side objectives going up the sign as you have a big your big art piece in the middle there.
It is interesting to me that like just as a tiny UI note that Snowbreak has the like home and back button tab on the right side, whereas on Girls Frontline it's on the left.
Yeah,
but presumably that's just a through line throughout the UI.
That's just a through line. In Snowbreak, a lot of your things are on the right side. But talking about systems that are similar, Girls Frontline and Snowbreak almost uses identical systems, and like I said, these came out at the same time, and so I'm guessing it's like the same design philosophy. But like you level up your main characters, and that's usually tied to your character level. It's not 1-to-1 like it was in in Snowbreak. It's like in 10s or 20s or something. I can't remember. I hit the peak already. Like I said, then you have your abilities that you can get from getting extra copies. You have a system that increases like I can't remember the neural interface something whatever. Snowbreak also has something like that. They call it their manifestation though, because that's where they get their super fucking powers from. And then the only big thing that Snowbreak has above the additional system that Snowbreak has over Girls Frontline 2 is Snowbreak has what is called logistics. Basically, every girl in Snowbreak has a system where you can basically equip 3 logistic officers to them, and it gives them boosts and whatnot, and you can upgrade them and stuff. So it's a little thing. But the weapon system is also like almost identically the same. You basically can level up your weapon. Extra copies of the weapon improves that weapon's extra skill. And usually the purple and up weapons usually have a unique skill, which is usually tied to a specific person. And then you have attachments that you can put in there as well. So it's very, very similar, and I'm really curious like where if this is just like the mainstream design philosophy for these types of games is going now, or maybe like was someone talking to each other like during this. Like I said, because they both came out the same year, so it's not so far apart that I can necessarily say that one copied the other. But maybe they took notes during development. I will say like Girls Frontline 2 ripping off that Nikki thing, that was totally them copying, because Nikki actually came out the year before, which makes it quite hilarious to me.
Yeah, I feel like at least because it's just like one little side game mode, it is very obviously an homage.
Yes,
but it's a very interesting one for the pick. It could be cross talking, because I was looking up CSUN Games, or Amazing CSUN Games, who make Snowbreak Containment, and also producing Mecha Break.
Yep.
They are based in multiple areas, but do appear to have offices in like Beijing and Shanghai, and I'm pretty sure Micah Team is in Shanghai.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe like they talk to each other and maybe like share tech or something. I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, at some point they did have to do a jump from, the 2D to 3D. Who knows where they got that help from, or if they developed on an engine. I don't know. I just think it's a fascinating coincidence that they have very similar systems and a somewhat similar design in their event UI.
It is interesting. Now that when you brought it up at the start, I remember that you had been talking about it, and I was actually interested in you elaborate, because obviously I haven't tried Snowbreak, so I wasn't sure 100% what you meant. But it is interesting to me for you to say that, because you obviously have that specific comparison, having played Snowbreak.
Let me put this one in here so people can
in general, to me, like a lot of these streamlines are like they're not quite exactly like what you'd expect. Like I said, they do have I feel like the layout when you skip a banner, you get all the little slots of like the weapons all in blue or purple, and then occasionally you see a character. Like Hoyoverse has been doing that kind of layout for their banners for a while, basically. So I was wondering like if just a lot of the streamlining was just keeping up with the Joneses, as it were, just jumping to like what a lot of other 3D gacha games are doing. The similarities sound like very close technologically, so yeah, that does make me wonder if just like people from Micah Team or Sunburn and CSUN were talking, were they sharing tech or something? Was like did one of the two like hire some guys from the other, or go through like the same third party kind of a thing? Or is it just like you said, both came out this year, so was it just a thing where like that's just where the headspace is at with gacha games right now, Yeah.
It's a little interesting to me. With Girls Frontline 2, though, I am a little curious about how they're going to be handling the releases of new dolls. I did check in the Chinese, and while they are releasing more, it's not like they're not necessarily swamping people with new characters, but I haven't necessarily been able to figure out like which ones are limited and which ones are not. Because one of the big concerns I always have is they'll have their starting pool of elites and their starting pool of, I don't know what the purple ones are called.
Is it standard?
Is it standard? Let me pull up the recruiting room. Let me see if that'll tell me real quick here.
Yeah, standard for purples.
Yeah, standard and elites. Like, we have that standard pool. Like, I'm actually very concerned that we're just gonna go with nothing but, limited elites right from now on. That bothers me a little bit, especially since we started the game with 2 limited elites, like, right out the gate. Day one, 2 limited on a band, on their respective banners. And, like, is this just gonna be how it is? Are we gonna get no, because I don't think there's been another, welfare unit after, Lotto. Like, I don't think. I haven't dived super deep onto Girls Frontline 2, and, its tier lists and whatnot. I just saw people were like, Suomi is the literal fucking best. I'm like, why is he the literal fucking best? I have to go pull up some lists, and everyone's like, no, Suomi is literally the fucking best support unit that you will ever get ever. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, probably in the sense that she started broken, so the team is probably never going to release another unit that does exactly what she does, because the fucking too much power creep. We juice too far.
Too much power creep. Like I said, there will be new units. Like I said, Macchiato will be coming eventually, but I have no idea if she's going to be limited or not. It's I'm concerned for the release schedule of units, and I'm also curious how many, because Girls Frontline has a lot of gun girls. I mean a lot of gun girls. Like I said, there's a lot of guns, and they try to put girls to every single one of them.
Now, obviously, some of those girl designs were, not the highest quality. They weren't all of them weren't super gripping. Some of them are very memorable for all the wrong reasons. Look at you, IDW. But also, I mean, how could you not do IDW with the fucking ya as, a joke? Because everybody who's played Girl Frontline will get that. I don't know. It's like you said, there were so many T-dolls, and I think they're a modernization that maybe for the worse is they don't really do low-star units. They don't even do low-star guns. I've only seen green rarity on weapon attachments,
Yeah.
They have the tools to do that lower rarity stuff, but there's, as far as I know, no more 1 or 2 star, even 3 star T-dolls. It's just 4s and 5s, because they're put in with 3 and up star guns. So definitely we're missing some of the pack filler, but also I think that may just be because the girls now have so much more work put into them, because they're 3D models. They usually have a costume when they come out, or 2. A lot of the starter girls have their training outfits you can access.
Mm-hmm.
All of them have special poses and animations in your dorm, which I think also the dorm environments are supposed to be semi-unique to each girl. So
yep.
There's a lot more work going into each unit, which is probably why they haven't blown up with them. But yeah, I also, literally, I think I looked up on the wiki to see if there'd be anybody coming back, and I do know that, for instance, we're gonna get playable versions of a couple of the 404 girls, sometime before too long, and they're already in the file, so I think she might be in the game right now, but the regular G36 is, Centorisi is in, regular G36 who dresses like a maid. I'm pretty down to find where she's at. Classic.
No, but
listen, love the German guns, but literally, they have a section in the IOP wiki, the classic IOP wiki. I remember, still up, thank God. Where they're if they can be done standard or limited procurement, and it just says for all dolls, it's no idea. And I'm that's not helpful, game. Does that mean they're not playable yet? But they have ads they're playable, so I don't know. So yeah, I genuinely do not know what our schedule is going to be like for this game.
Yes. So that is probably my big concern, because otherwise I do like this game. It was quick to pick up. The story is pretty good, and I like it. But again, just
playing a lot of gacha games.
I'm playing a lot of gacha games. Well, again, what helps me right now is basically how quickly I can get to the content and move through something else. Girls Frontline 2 is taking up a lot of my time because I am able to maintain my power to story ratios, so I am not falling behind on reading stories. So I have to read. I can't just dump all my IP into some resource gathering and call it a day. Like I said, I did actually finish up everything. Well, I haven't finished up everything that the event will let me do, but I finished up most of it. I've unlocked the hard, but hard 2 has a recommend level of 30. I'm just I'm not there yet, buddy. I think I'm 26. Yeah,
the part 2 will open up in a few days.
Yeah, and the side events, they're actually time gated. Only one comes out each day. So I don't have to spend forever on that, which I think is good. I think that lets me respect my time a little bit more. I don't have to worry so much about getting every single thing done. But I do want to get them done because that's how you can get some free currency to buy stuff in the shop, which shortcuts things. So I think once I get caught up with story and the event, the Girls Frontline 2 will respect my time and I won't have to spend hours on it each day. I could probably get in, do everything in 20 minutes and get out. But I still wonder about the future of this game because I haven't really, like I said, because Girls Frontline 1 kind of left a sour taste in my mouth, not because it was necessarily, well, I'll say it was kind of a bad game with its kind of weird, meandering, very depressing story and its very harm gameplay and keep bolting on systems. I was not necessarily that sold on Girls Frontline 2. I kind of did just pick it up on the whim and went, oh no, I like it. So now I'm fucking here.
Yeah, I was following 2 for a little bit, but like I said, mostly just through gameplay and stuff. And I was just like, well, it looks like the core gameplay loop is fun. I'll try it whenever it actually comes out. And now I'm here. Girls Frontline 1, I think, is, as you would expect, a gun that, does Mecha Musume for firearms. It was a horrible monstrosity of probably going over scope and over budget and had way too many fiddly bits. But if you knew just right how to do it, works like a dream.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they like you said, they kept bolting on shit. Some of it was cool. Like I loved when they did add the crew served weapon girls, the heavy weapon girls. That was that's neat. But also not compatible with some of the earlier maps and events and shit because it wasn't designed that way.
No. Like I said, I'm probably going to get back into Girls Frontline 1 and see how things are and maybe see if I can wrap up the story so I can have closure on that. But also I want to go look at my skins for Walther to 2000 because I have them all because she's my wife. But I'm excited to see where it goes. Like I said, the story is very good. I'm on chapter 5 right now. 5 of 6?
Yeah.
Yes. Heterodyne Resonance. And like I said, once I get done with that, I will probably, dial back on that time so I can, shuffle it in my other, 6 Gacha games I'm playing. Am I playing 6 right now? I think
Something like that.
Azure Lane, Blue Archive, VK, Outer Planes, Haze Reverb, Girls Frontline 2. Yep. Oh, and FGO. 7. FGO's a little weird for me sometimes.
Yeah, talk about what you call it, respecting your time. There are times when FGO is so respectful of your time. It's man, you didn't even have to just open me once today, man.
Open me once today. Convert your AP into apples. Go home. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
But then when it's hey, it's a big event time. It's I'm here. I'm gonna be here for several hours, reading, fighting, reading some more.
Fighting and reading.
So I am very excited I won't say I'm very excited. I am quite excited to see where Girls Frontline 2 goes, and hopefully, like I said, we can, once information starts trickling down as people translate things from the future and they start working on their own clairvoyance, I can figure out maybe where this game is going and see if I want to stick with it for the long run. I will say, I did get Suomi. I wasn't planning on getting her at the first play because I was no, I gotta wait for my wife. But again, just I don't necessarily want to call it the peer pressure, but I guess the meta pressure got to me. I did end up spending $15 on this game so I could roll her. Like I said, some people were able to get her without spending money, and I hate you all. I hate your guts. And yeah, but I think we're going to be in hard mode savings, and I really, really hope that they don't make. I really hope they don't make her limited. Please don't make her limited. Ugh.
Like I said, genuinely don't know. That
genuinely do not
seems to be the strats more games are doing, but also some games do have lots of non-limited units. Actually, it's a good question. How many? What's the ratio of permanents to limiteds in Nikkei?
Nikkei? Oh god, they will come out with a new unit oh god, how long are events? 2 weeks? Yeah, they'll come out with a new unit every 2 to 3 weeks. But the limiteds are usually key to very specific times. You'll get because we have 2 collabs a year. You'll get limited units then. It's usually 2 each there. We had 3 for the Eva one because I guess they couldn't decide which one was best girl. So, and then we'll have 2 for summer and 2 for winter. All the other units, while they are featured on rate ups, are permanent. Our anniversary Nikkeis that we got, Cinderella, one of the probably a unit that briefly broke the game, is considered one of the strongest units almost ever. No, she's in the standard recruitment forever. She's just pilgrim, so she has a slightly different rate up than others do.
Yeah, so it's workable, obviously, to have a lot of permanent units. So I guess we'll see. Like I said, it's information's a little spotty, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, so it's only seasonal. Yeah, specifically, so it's only seasonal units and collab units that are limited. Every other unit in the game is standard. I will say, the way it specifically is, they are not added to there's the standard pool until maybe like an event after the event they debut in. So I guess it's kind of a temporary limited thing, I guess.
Well, I mean, technically, FGO does that too. Even with their permanent units, they're not available until after their initial ban or summon period ends.
Yeah.
So again, not that uncommon.
No. So it's pretty good. Frickin' Outer Planes the same way. Like, they have very few limited units. Like, actually limited units. Most of them are just put into a permanent, or they have their own specialized gacha pool. Some of their coolest units, like their Demiurge and Gnosis units, are put into a Demiurge and Gnosis pool that you have to get a special currency for. But you can get 20 of that currency every day, as long as you're doing certain things. So every 5 days, you can make a 10 pool on that specific gacha banner. And they have, like, decent rates there. So, like, in order to make money, you don't have to make everything limited all the fucking time. And I hope Girls Frontline 2 knows this lesson. Like, no.
Well, and I definitely feel like they've already set up their alternative system, just like the regular Girls Frontline, which is all of the skins in the boutique are just premium currency, straight up.
Yeah, no gacha for costumes, which is nice. Because, boy, howdy, that was something that pissed me off.
Yeah. Now, some of the costumes they have are permanent, but some of them appear to be like time-limited runs, but they have multiple monetizations. And let me tell you, I mean, admittedly, it's because they're probably like 3D modeling and stuff, but these costumes, I would argue for like normal DLC prices, pricey.
Yeah.
You want to get Suomi's, swimsuit costume, $20, $20 buckaroonies. But yeah, you got a few different things going on. But yeah, so they seem to have their alternate monetization. I think you can even pay cash money for like weapon skins too if needed. Yeah, they got like a $6.99 if you want to buy a fucking super soakerized Suomi skin. $6.
Yeah, I'll pass on that, thank you. I like your original design enough as is. But no, I do believe that is everything I wanted to talk about Girls Frontline. The comparisons with Snowbreak, my concerns for the future.
Yeah, just to put a pin on that, because I didn't say about my long-term plans as well. I also am like, I don't know if I'll stick with this game forever. I like the gameplay loop, but if there are really annoying to me with limited units, I could see dropping off, especially if they like introduce some girl designs that I really liked back. I do know that Springfield's not in the game yet, but she's coming back.
I'm pretty sure she is going to be a limit. I think I've heard that.
Yes, that I think is true, but that's because they've also got some extra spicy skins. So we'll have to see how that goes. The one thing that I will say is a benefit is, like Lucky said, I also did some of my research on that, and it does not seem like they have gone absolutely apeshit with units, you know? Like, if these... Let me see, I think there were... Oops. Sorry, I moved my hand in the wrong place for the keyboard, but let's see. Yeah, the targeted procurement ends in, like, 18 days from now, so it was, like, 20 days. So, like, if their banners are, like, 20 days long, that means you're getting, like, usually one a month. And maybe they'll do two, at a time. But that does mean that, they're not going crazy. But I am concerned about the like I said, the lack of lower rarity units, like you said, and also, like, how they're kind of, like, spreading the classes. But, it's their game. They haven't imploded yet.
Yeah.
They're doing the smart thing. They haven't crossed over with Persona 5, which is what kills gacha games. So we'll see. I think the reason why... not that it mattered, because, again, we did double back, and it meant that we are now at almost 4 hours long. But I think the reason why I was immediately ready to roll to P3R over the other stuff was because you did pick that up before we did other stuff, and I would like to let you get a chance to talk about your thoughts about Persona 3 before I fucking shrivel up and die at this rate, because it's 1:30 in the morning.
Well, I can get those out thoughts pretty. So I did pick up Persona 3 Reloaded on the Black Friday, so I got it for $24.99, which I think is pretty good. I think it's still full prices in some of the places. So I picked it up, plopped it in, and I'm like, I am having a weird experience with this, because, like I said, I did play the original P3. I know I've told the story. I know I've told it, but I'm going to tell it again. I know I've played the original P3. I played it on the PS2 when it came with its fucking little mini soundtrack as a second disc, which was rad as fuck. I can't remember this game at all. Well, I take that back. I can remember this game, but I remember it in bits and pieces. And I'm like, shit. Like, I vaguely remember characters, I vaguely remember battles, I vaguely remember scenes, I vaguely remember the ending, but not the ending as an ending, I just kind of remember me as the protagonist in a room of darkness, maybe like fighting some fucking light, and I'm just like, don't actually remember why I'm there. So, going back to, like, so playing Persona 3 Reload is an experience, because it's one of those things that, like, I remember this, but I don't remember this. Like, this music, I know this music, but I don't know this music. Which is also probably part because they redid the music instead of including like completely new tracks and remixed tracks. Like, God, does Burn My Dread like not show up at all?
I don't know if they probably have it tucked away somewhere, but yeah, it's not.
Because I do like how in the opening it's just like the main character has like Burn My Dread on their little Peter, and then it switches over to the new track. I'm all like, that's pretty cool. But it's like Burn My Dread, man, that's rad as fuck.
It's probably hidden in there somewhere, but I'm not sure where. They do a lot of stuff of, like, you know, you get the classic mass destruction in a normal fight, but then you have the other fight when you get, like, advantage.
Mm-hmm. I like the one that you got advantage. I can't remember the name of it, though. But something about
it's pretty good. My deep brain structures are very focused on babe.
Mm-hmm. But, like, you know, going around town, it's like a lot of the music, like, invokes, like, nostalgic feel, but, like, I don't remember this game. So it's a very weird experience for me. So I can really only, like, gauge it on its merits. And the weird thing about this is I feel like, even though it's, like, updated and stuff, I still kind of feel like we're in kind of this, like, PS2 kind of game kind of feel. I don't know why. Like,
well,
like
they
the visuals
are life, but I think they did try to, like, cleave pretty close to the original.
Like, like I said, I've only gotten past the first midterms. I've hit like floor 42. I'm up to the second barrier. I will shout out me. Good job, me. I was able to get to both barriers in one go. Yay! We might have been a little started on SP there, but we did it.
Nice. That's the preferred strat. Do your power leveling in one night, so you have more free nights for more bullshit.
Mm-hmm. The lust studying, I was actually able to get first in my class on my midterm, so I was like, yes, mission accomplished. But, like, I'm going around and, like, I don't remember the social links at all. I don't remember, well, my main thing is, like, it seems like this game's very basic, like, very, Persona 3, it's very basic. Like, we don't have a lot of interesting systems. We have basic ass attacks, we have Persona ass attacks, and we have basically, you know, we have the, you know, one more passing system. I'm all like, could we have, like, spice that up a little bit more? I'm not entirely sure. Battles for me are...
They do got a little more spice. They are a little slow to dole out some of the upgrades they did to the combat system.
Okay. Like, also another thing, does the social links give, like, benefits besides just giving more XP for fusion? Or is that something that they just... Is that something that they do, or...
Let's see. Some specific interactions might get you some small stat buffs, but usually it's the EXP buff, and then when you finish it, you maximize you get the ability to fuse the ultimate persona. Yeah, they don't have separate mechanical benefits like the confidants in 5 do.
Yeah, no. So my problem, like, right now here is I think this is, like, even though it is very visual, I genuinely love the visual you get when you get the weakness. How, you know, they do the flash of, like, your character's like a little dark, but their eyes are glowing, and then it does the cut in with the eyes, but then the persona, like, busts through that fucking thing. Oh, I love it every time.
Yeah, presentation and Reloaded is top notch.
Yeah, like, so. Well, like I said, this is one thing I'm feeling like saying. I think they did a little bit too much of a faithful remake. They just basically remade some things and, like, streamlined some things. Like, I did not realize that they took out the club choices. You have to do track and field. Like, I was like, no, but what about my kendo club? I just want to see myself wailing on a dude with a stick.
Yeah, that was an area where I was a little sad. I think I mentioned that when the game first came out.
And, like, I don't know. It's like, I feel like we could have, like, so far we could have done more with this, put in more modern systems, added a little bit more flair. Like I know they're adding stuff. Like, Omega, you had, like, Twilight Fragments weren't in the original game, right? Or were they? I don't know. I genuinely do not know. No. But they have them here, and you can, like, find them. Like, Elizabeth will give you some. Sometimes you can find them in Tartarus as a special breakable, but mostly you just find them around town. And I don't know if there's, like, I think there might be a limited number of them. I'm not entirely sure. Gotta be careful about that. But, that's something new, and it gives you a system that, like, I haven't used it yet because, I don't want to waste them necessarily, but you can use them on a clock to regenerate. I don't know if it fully restores you or not, but restores your HP and SP. Not sure how that goes.
Yes, I think if you have enough to restore it, you get a full restore. Basically,
Yeah, no, which is
the start of the night.
Yeah, only get more versions. Like that's nice. So they weren't opposed to adding things because guess what? It's a Persona game. Your most important resource is your SP because boy howdy, there's not a lot of things that are weak to physical attacks. I guess it does make sense because they explain it. Physical attacks are supposed to be like you can magically crit on those anytime without weaknesses. But guess what? Sometimes enemies are more. There are more enemies who will be resistant to physical attacks than there will be enemies that are weak to them, and I'm pretty sure that crit chances are stupid fucking low. This is why Revolution is crazy goo sometimes, except when it's used against you. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Dicebot, who just do nothing but cast Revolution, and your fucking dudes who would just keep doing that shoot attack who would not stop critting! God!
Yeah, welcome to Persona, baby.
Ah!
Yeah, they do more in-depth stuff, but like I said, they are, I think, conservative in rolling it out. I think the idea was they didn't want to, like, scare off anybody who started playing, like, early and with, like, heaping a lot of new shit on top of the old shit right away. But, like, your navigator stuff with Fuka's got a lot more extra layers to it. Later, they kind of changed up some of the mechanics for, like, scouting parties and stuff in Tartarus, which you may or may not have seen already. Like, you can't really order the crew to split up, but sometimes somebody will be like, hey, I'm gonna go up a floor, I'm gonna scout ahead. You could send them to scout ahead and fight some guys, and they'll come back with a little bit of EXP and some goodies.
That's good, okay. So maybe I just haven't got far enough in, but like I said, my initial, like, month and a half, I think it is, has been fairly lackluster. Like I said, I've spent a lot of time eating brain food at the kitchen.
Yep. And
doing part-time jobs and stuff, which is, the experience, but I don't feel like I'm playing I guess the best way to say it is I don't feel like I'm playing a PS4 or PS5 game. I feel like I'm playing a PS2 game, which I'm pretty sure is what a lot of people wanted because, like I say this apart, people are somewhat hypocrites. They want something different, but to stay exactly the same.
Yeah, I think tonally, Legendary in the chat's correct. P3 also, I think, is like, because it is the first one they did with this formula, it has a little bit of a slower ramp than the others.
Maybe. It could be. Like I said, I can't really speak from experience. Like I said, I don't actually remember playing the game.
Yeah, like I said, it's the word that I'm looking for this is you described it. Like it sounds to me like it's very appropriate, but you're having like this kind of like deja vu of a game where like it feels familiar, but you don't recognize it. You're not like for me, when I play P3, that game is like the original run of that is like laser etched into my brain. So when I hear the classic, school theme, I'm just like, yeah. Picture of DK going, yeah, here. But for you, it's like, it's a lot more loosey-goosey, so you instead just get vague flashes of like, I think I recognize this song. I think I recognize this scene. I think I recognize this guy.
Yeah, no, like, I got really confused because I forgot, like, I remember doing the battle on the monorail, but I thought it was actually earlier. I thought that's what, like, happened on, like, in, like, the opening and stuff. But I was so, like, I'm going through the game, I was all like, shouldn't this have happened? Yeah, but no, it was like, no, it's after it's on the second full moon, because technically the first one is when, you get attacked at the dorm. That happens. I was like, oh, okay, I just misremembered that. So, no, it's been a weird experience. I'm not having a bad time, I'm definitely having a weird time.
It will, I think, pick up a lot more. Like, they do also another thing that it quite frankly, I think it takes them a little too long to get into, but, like, as you start, like, expanding the crew and, getting everybody back in, the senpais and stuff, they start doing really great stuff with the cease and, like, the dorm. Like, you get different hangout missions. They're not quite social link stuff directly, but, like, that can get you, like, stat points, or, like, you can prep meals, which can get you consumables and stuff, with your crew members, which is really good, and just, I mean, good, comfy dorm vibes, but,
yeah.
Also, you can practically get some effects of, like, Yukari is like, I'm not scared of this stupid ghost show. Anyway, do you want to watch this stupid ghost show? I can go watch his boxing footage in the backlog. Shit like that. So, like, they do stuff, but yeah, it's a very gradual rollout to really get your highest level shit. But there is both more combat, more like dungeon and field, and more social stuff they did add on, but it comes in very gradually.
Okay.
And the game itself is definitely like, that is something that I think that like P4 and P5 get a lot. I mean, P5 literally has an in media res, so like they really figured out how to get you fucking hooked early. But like,
like I think part of my problem
is like, go ahead.
I think P5 and Metaphor has maybe slightly spoiled me on it because I'm way more used to those systems. Because like I said, I remember P5 and Metaphor way better than I remember P3 and P4. It's just how it is.
I mean, like I said, P5 is a very high level of modern storytelling. They do an in media res, like with the basic tutorial, and like hook you in immediately where you're wondering like, what the fuck am I doing in this fucking mind casino? And then it like ratchets back, but still sets up enough to make you interested and follow along. And also, as annoying as he is, I think Morgana constantly telling you to go to sleep is like a pacing tool because it makes time go by faster rather than just have you be like, well, nothing's going on, so I don't know, just do some social stuff, you know?
I don't know. I always wish I can use time. Like, fucking in P3, you're in a coma for like a week and a half to 2 weeks, and no one ever comments on it.
Yeah, you're the new transfer student. But yes, no, there are a couple moments like that. But P3 does have a much, like, slower build-up. Like, I think you even get to do, like, you stay in the dorm, like, a couple of days before the first full moon. It's like, you start, like, almost like a week before it. So... You just kind of chill out and wander around for a while, and then you get the big spooky dramatic moment, and then you're passed out for a little bit because we have to explain the plot.
Yeah, no, it's like, oh yeah, you were just asleep for like 2 weeks. You mean a coma? I was in a fucking coma. I do find that really fucking weird. Why do we have to be asleep for a week and a half?
Because that's how when they wrote the original P3, they paced out the year. They probably should have done a little better with their dates, but when it is a calendar year, you got to work with that kind of shit. But yeah, and then you figure out after the initial incident, you figure out Junpei and add all the stuff and the stees. So yeah, it's a slow build, and that's another thing that I will say that the other games get better about. Like in P3, there are subplots that go on with like recruiting new characters and other characters, like personal plots and stuff. But like your normal process is wait for full moon to happen, explore more Tartarus. Like, I think that's something they really got better at was they went on, like, P4 with, like, actually having, like, trying to figure out who the next victim is and then rescue them when they inevitably get yeeted into the TV anyway, and then P5 as, like, much more proactive of, like, villains setting themselves up and figuring out whose hearts you have to change and shit like that, you know? Like, they get much more proactive about your plot build-up. P3 will mostly follow that formula throughout, though there are going to be a lot of moments of, like, depending on the month in question, that full moon date can be a like very big ramp into plot events.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting to see them do their paradigm shift. And yeah, I think I mentioned a couple. Like I distinctly remember when you said the thing about like the sports club. I was like, oh yeah, I remember when I first played the remake. I was disappointed about that too. I totally would have gone Kendo Club again. That seems so much more practical.
Yeah.
But I think it was just like one of those things of like paring down kind of unnecessary fluff. Like they had a couple of pickable clubs in P4 and then in P3 or not P3, P5, going up in numbers, it just doesn't happen anymore. Like,
well, you're kind of a pariah at school, so
it's true. Like they shifted up, but I think it's one of those things where just like Atlas realized that like when the social links are mostly the same, it doesn't matter. And if they're different, then we're writing like 2 links for 1.
I guess that's true, but again, I'm also a little concerned about the writing of the social links, because right now it just seems very boilerplate, I guess I want to say is.
Well, let's see. Who you been socializing with at this early stage?
Let's see here. So I got my classmate who's about like, yes, I'm in love with a teacher. I'm totally going to ask her out. I was like, okay.
No, yes, Kenji's always been that way. He's always been that friend.
Yes. We got Trackstar member who's like, no, I injured myself, but I gotta keep working. I gotta keep working harder, even harder. And I'm just like, okay. Let's see here. We got the track team manager who's like, I just want to help people, but girls think I'm a bitch. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, P3 definitely has a very specific like curve of the way social links go. Some of them take a really long time to ramp. Like, Kenji's just
I'm
Kenji, man. Like, that guy, your interactions are just gonna be like him being like, I'm gonna beg a teacher, and you just with a mouthful of noodles going, bro, sure, cool story. Like, that one, I don't think that like fucking goes anywhere for like ages. But like when you get to some of the later ones, they do get a little more fleshed out. Like I think Hermit gets like zingers like right out the gate. It's interesting how like the pacing and ramp of P3 is designed to be very gradual. I wonder if that's part of the kind of like the vibe.
Well, yeah, I guess that's like one of the problems I'm having right now is everything is too slow to start. Like I said, I also got God, is it Hermit? The one where you play the MMO with Maya?
Yeah.
Just this one person in MMO? I'm just like, it's like, that one's somewhat interesting, but it's also paired by the time that they're using fucking like 2000s internet like shorthand. I'm just all like, it's 2020 something right now. I am beyond this. Please stop. And she's just talking about, I'm totally an adult, but I hate my life, and you're just venting to someone on the internet. I'm just like, okay.
It do be like that. Though admittedly P3 is... Quick chat, help me out. What year is P3 actually canonically set in?
2009.
Yeah.
It's actually
on
the calendar.
They kept a lot of the stuff original. I mean, and some of them are nice. Did you hang out with the old people?
Yeah, no, it's like that. But also, they have, horrible trauma about their son dying in a car accident to the point that, can't let, the wife doesn't want to let her husband drive. That's where I'm at right now, which is interesting. But at the same time, I'm just all like, y'all, I just met you like a week ago. Why am I being involved in this drama?
Because you're in it's the Persona protagonist's curse. You're in a Persona game. Guess what? And like I said, this is another thing that like they get better at over time. I don't think any social links are quite as wacky and wild as like I said, Kenji is a trip of just like, yeah, this is my pal in class. He wants to bang a teacher. He's kind of delulu, y'all.
So I'm just a little weirded out because I like in 5, like again, forgive me for making the comparison, and I can't remember 4 to save my fucking life. Again, I never actually, like I see, here's the thing. I remember I beat 3. I don't remember it. I didn't beat 4. I still don't I don't remember that one either. So I'm just like, But the social links in 5 felt like they had meaning and reasons for you to pursue them. Same with, Metaphor. It's like, they were not just some random people you met on a fucking stream and be like, let me hear your fucking life story.
I feel like for P3, they kind of started from the aspect that they wanted one for each arcana, and then they kind of like tried to make character tropes match. P4 and P5 are much more about like specific character tropes.
Like fucking, like that makes no sense, because how the fucking is Kenji the fucking magician? The magician in the major arcana is supposed to be a guide for the fucking, for the character. That's why, Morgana is it in P5, and it's why it's like I don't like the in Metaphor. I don't think necessarily the major arcana represents what I can't think of what they're called now anymore. What manifestation you get, but Gallica the fairy, who's literally your guide, is the one who unlocks the mage. So why the fuck is the guy's character Kenji, who's like, I'm gonna bang a teacher? That makes no fucking sense.
Well, the magician can also like literally refer to like a younger man. It's like the opposite of the high priestess. That's why a lot of magician characters are like they can be your guide, but they can also be like some of your close allies. Like I'm pretty sure Junpei's Hermes is the magician. Like it's supposed to be somebody kind of like young coming into their power. If you are not the magician yourself, it can be like a person represented to guide you. So like I think the idea is that Kenji is kind of like just, a normal young guy, the first guy you meet, and he's there to like let you be normal. But then we realized 10 years later, Kenji's not fucking normal. Like, and that is the thing I will say. I think some of the like dialogue got retranslated to be a little more palatable to modern audiences, but in general, a lot of the themes and tropes of the characters that were probably a little uncomfortable are still uncomfortable. Yes, in the original P3, it's a little fucking weird that Maya gets drunk and rambles in an outdated MMO that's gonna go, out of style sometime soon, to, somebody she doesn't even know who's like, school age about her life. But also, man, the fucking Also, she got to deal with bullshit too. Like and I think that's the kind of the point of like the hermit, which is part of her journey, is the like self-isolation and discovery of like, hey, clamming up about your life isn't going to help you get over shit. You need to like look inward and figure out your shit. But also as a character, Maya is about like, I guess, letting you know that like life's not magically better when you become an adult either, which is like something that P3 didn't have yet. That's something that, like I said, other games are much better about dealing with. But, you know, it is, there's a lot of growing pains, and it's interesting to go through. And Chat said either. Not all social links are created equal. There's some real zingers that are really good in there, but...
Oh, I bet they are, and I think part of my problem is, like I said, I'm really early. We're doing a lot of setup, but a lot of the setup is fucking slow, and it's either slow or it's weird.
Yeah, the game definitely, like all Persona games, honestly, will hit like a flow state eventually where you're just like bouncing back and forth from stuff and things. But they do take a while to set up. I almost feel kind of like the social links are almost designed to be like, I mean, they are kind of like tiered, but like actually tiered of like, you can, I think, like damn near max out a couple of those starters by the time you start to get like your third or fourth string social links unlocked. Like, you can be very far through Magician and Chariot if you so choose by the time you start like getting like your like fifth and sixth party members and shit, right? Like it. Mm-hmm. So like I do actually think at some points the writing is actually like staged like that, and also like some of your social links are designed to unlock. That's something that P3 did a lot more. Your social links are designed to unlock later social links. Like doing your track buddy will help you unlock Star later, who is like a track star at a different school kind of a thing. You know, you'll meet him in an event that's linked to those guys. So like it is kind of an interesting like flow. But yeah, some of them are weird. I also think it says a lot about the Persona protagonist that, as usual, your usual best choice in a social link is to just kind of smile and nod a lot. Like, again, later games get better about that, but it is kind of like they stuck very true to the original experience. And I'm actually very interested to see how you feel about stuff both currently and later, especially once you get into the real heavy hitting stuff, because, like you said, you know you've played this game, but you do not remember it. So, like, I would argue you are probably not the ideal customer Atlas wants for P3. I think their customer base for P3 was people who remember P3 and people who don't know shit about P3, other than everybody was like, oh man, P3, man.
Actually, now that you mentioned it, yeah, I probably am in that weird niche slice that's probably this game wasn't marketed to.
Well, and I think even the fact, like, you did not jump in and buy the game right away. Like, I had my pre-order locked in because I am the, like, man, I remember P3. That shit was...
Well, remember, I did have it. I actually had the special edition pre-order, but I had to cancel it. And I was just
cancel it. You didn't... That was your budgetary concerns at the start of the year, but you let it drop because that was not a be-all, end-all for you. You came back to it because you got real into Metaphor and was like, man, Atlas, these games are good. And that, I think, is definitely going to have some transition shock because, by all accounts, Metaphor is like Atlas spinning their greatest, shit of like, okay, here's everything we've learned since like the PS2. Here, go. And P3 is much more of a deliberate throwback, a deliberate remake. I mean, yeah, no, like, that's the other thing is, Lucky not remembering the core gameplay is probably not going to remember some of the most annoying shit, like the fact that no version of of the PS2 P3, which, because the portable version had, like, pared down field maps and stuff, like, you couldn't actually, like, explore a lot of places on foot. There's a lot of menus you selected, but in P3 and P3 Fez, you can't control your party members at all.
No, I remember that, so I'm glad we have direct commands now, but...
Like, and other weird stuff about that. So, like, the gameplay is quality of life over the original P3, but it is probably not in depth as some of their newer titles for a while. And obviously, I think that, like, they tried to give Tartarus some extra flares, a couple of different weird, funny things you can do in there. But as a dungeon design, Tartarus probably isn't as, definitely not as varied as some of the TV dungeons, though those are also like fairly plain. They don't do a lot of extra mechanics in P4. There's room for your P4 update Atlas when you get to that in the next 5 years. But like palaces and even the normal like mementos designs for P5 were way more in depth. So some of the fucking the boss maps in P3 are just like tubes and hallways. they got some cool setting stuff with like the train disaster and thing, and some of the other later ones are real fun, but some of them are also just like hallways. They're hallways so that you can hang out with your buddies and talk about stuff more, but still, yeah. So like I said, I was gonna say, your kind of like unbiased opinion, but that's not quite true. Your ghost deja vu opinion is like you said, you are probably not in the optimal buying space, but I think that means you are gonna have some interesting and probably like very frank opinions. Because like for me, like I said, while I do think there are flaws to P3 Reloaded, it is hard for me to separate it from my, at this point, very nostalgic tinged memories about playing, P3 Fez when I was like, 15 or something. Perfect target demographics for that game. Possibly a little later. I don't remember because I didn't get P3 right when it came out. I think I happened to beat P3 Fez like right around the time P4 came out, actually. So I was a later adopter. But yeah, like it's hard for me to separate out the feelings of comparison and stuff. You are going to be looking back with like, looking at the shadow upon the wall of a cave. Sorry, that's me sighing to myself. 4 hours, 15 minutes. God, I did want to talk about the things they did for the PS Partner Awards.
We might have to just wait on that one.
We can come back to that one. Just, if you can, chat, look it up. Sony did some really interesting things there, and I think they did some good stuff. And we talked before on, I think it was on Halo, we mentioned it, but I really do like that they kind of like picked some favorites for each generation, like sorted that shit out. That's cool. But I think the overall kind of like vibes for what PlayStation was doing, we'll probably have to put off to a different time. We can leave the note there though.
Yeah.
Because it's all like public recorded. So that means that if Lucky has nothing else to add about P3R, I can speedrun Marvel Rivals.
Yeah. Right now, I'm trying to make a character for my witch here in Pathfinder 2, but all the ones I have are taken. Games, I hate this. I specifically hate this. I do not want to be fucking Morgan 3605.
Yeah.
I want to be a character. I do not want to be a user.
That is an odd one, yes. Funnily enough, that does actually kind of segue into Marvel Rivals because you do have to enter you can, you log in through your Steam or your PlayStation or your whatever, but you do also have to set a separate username. So I had to be Unit Omega because regular Omega was taken because they do not allow duplicates. I'm presuming that's probably so that they have unique identifiers for people so that they can stay on the ball for like the banning and other moderation stuff, but it is definitely an oddball trend. But yeah, Marvel Rivals to Speedball. Game good. Good game. Not just reviews, I speak from hand-on experience. I've actually gotten to play a few rounds today. I could not Thursday because I was also super tired that day, and I will probably not get any more runs in because it's already 2 a.m. and I have to edit this monstrosities. But game good. It's shocking what an approach to making Overwatch, but learning through all of their sins can do for you. I do not believe, other than the fact that you have to have unique heroes, there's no, like, limits on picks. It does not force you to pick a specific class at a certain point. Like, the class spread isn't locked. Also, they only have 3. Your choices are, Vanguard, which is your tankier type characters. They are more about control and have higher HP pools and shit. You have, Duelists, which are your deeps. They are about finding enemies and killing them. There are a lot of them, because of course there are. And then you have, I think it's Strategist, are your healy, supporty, do funny, haha thing character. But all of that doesn't mean anything, because as you would expect from a franchise, a wealth of universes as you can get with Marvel, even in the same class, no two characters are truly alike. They are all doing their own shit, which is very diverse. Like, for Vanguards, I've been spending a decent amount of time playing, like, I immediately defaulted to Cap, because if Cap is not your default point, what are you doing? So, Captain America is a melee character. He has, like, a ranged attack by throwing his shield, which bounces on a cooldown, but he can guard behind his shield, which does reflect projectiles, so you have, like, ranged options, but otherwise you're just punching and slapping. He has kind of a Soldier 21, like, sprint, but it's not limited at all. You just tab the sprint button and Cap sprints forever. If you build up speed, you can turn that into a big jump and then like a slam down. All pretty normal. His ult is, Avengers Assemble, where his, like, attack speed and regen health gets better, and he does, like, an aura, and, boosts him up and stuff. So that is pretty cool. My other choice for strategist is Penny Parker, the Spider-Man relative in her giant spider robot. And I like to play her because then I get to be an annoying little snitch with mines. So she has, like, shoulder-mounted cannons that never need to reload, so you can basically become turret. You got some ability to, like, pull yourself around. You can shoot a big web to web up enemies and, like, motion, stop their motion for a little bit. But also, she can spit out up to 4 mines. You can stock 4 mines at once, proxy mines, and they slowly regenerate, so you can shoot out a shitload of mines. Which I love to just, you're playing controlled gameplay loops, you gotta capture the box, capture the table, shoot some mines. And you can also set up like a little area control armor dispenser that slows down enemies and stuff. They got a lot of weird and wacky wild stuff, like I said. For, like, strategists, I've played around with both Rocket Raccoon, the classic. He's got a jetpack. His gun can shoot death or life.
I just made up a word, and someone has already taken it. I hate this. I genuinely hate this.
Ooh, what the fuck? Talking about sharing the brain cell. But I've also had a lot of fun with Cloak and Dagger, because they literally switch. They're 2 heroes in one, so you push a button and you switch between the 2 of them. Dagger mostly is healing. She, shoots light at stuff, so you can create area heals or wide range heals or repel enemy attacks. Your basic range attack can also heal allies as well as hurt enemies. Whereas Cloak does shadowy shit. He can, like, block out enemy and, do zones and stuff. They got a wide variety of different options. A lot of people have been repping Moon Knight, because have you ever seen that comic panel of Random Bullshit Go? That's how Moon Knight is in Marvel Rivals. I talked about this in games. The man's got like 8 buttons. Whereas, one of the other, like, duelist types I've played is Storm. Storm has, like, 3 buttons. She can do your little zone AoE for speed, make your friends go faster and make Storm go faster, or you can do lightning, where you can do damage up and also damage enemies sometimes. She can shoot lightning bolts in front, and then she switches. That's it. And she can fly. That's another thing that's really interesting, is that they have a couple different heroes who can just free fly. Instead of having, like, different attack commands, you can ascend and descend. Iron Man does this, Storm does this. There may be a couple others. And that's, like, really interesting, because, like, sometimes it's cool for mobility, but other times I feel like I'm just a fucking piñata floating in space. So, diverse mechanics, fun stuff. Then there's just some wide variety of characters that, like, you can latch onto whoever you want, and you can probably pick a couple different characters you can go for. A lot of the designs look real good. They've got very high-level picks for voice actors. If you didn't know everybody, you'll be happy to hear that Yuri is still Spider-Man. He's still Speedly. They've got Steve Bloom as Wolverine. Very good read. I'm pretty sure Travis Willingham is Thor. And I know Laura Bailey is Black Widow. Do we need to bust out the MMO name triangle again? You're having a very bad time with the triangle today.
Well, no, I finally got one through, but I hate it. Yes, my witch character, Lady Lilith Nix. I'm like, God, I just wanted some goddess representation in my name and not involve fucking numbers. Why are we like this?
Don't want to put any underscores or XXs. But yeah, the voice acting is all really good. You do get, like, ambient dialogue between characters, where they'll go back and forth. You got a little other stuff. The environments are really colorful and pop, and don't need to make any sense because it's, the Marvel Rifts multiverse shit. Galactica's there to yell in your ear. And like I said, it just plays pretty fun. I've gotten a couple of matches which have felt fairly one-sided. Yeah, it doesn't, like, feel terrible. Overtime doesn't last forever. The objectives don't last forever. You get in there, you pick, you see some stuff. It's got the, like, Overwatch style, like, highlights or MVP clips, and it will peg on MVP to do a cool intro. But actually, everybody gets their best moment recorded as a highlight, so that after the match is over, you can click on somebody and see what their highlight was and upvote them, even if they're not, like, the MVP, if you like what they did better.
Oh, that's neat.
So, like, it's not just one single play of the game. It still, like, calls out who on your team did best, either as MVP or I don't know what SVP means exactly, but, like, if you lost, you'll still usually get an SVP player. But you can check other people's highlights, and it auto-saves, like, if you get it. I have already gotten a couple of MVPs literally playing the game day one. So, like, not super complex yet. They do have, like, a tournament and a more competitive bracket, but we're all just quick playing right now. The only thing I will say is that as much as I don't like what loot boxes represent, the feedback on your tchotchkes and leveling is not as cool as loot boxes. You get a couple piles of currency and stuff. They have a premium, season pass that you can unlock in addition to like normal stuff. They're all permanent, no FOMO. They do give you little gifts for achievements. They do have, sprays and title cards. They got a couple different skins and animations. So like it's all got the cool cosmetics and they look good. All the models are real nice. I'm sure many of you have seen much Squirrel Girl posting lately. Because Squirrel Girl is built that way a little in comics most of the time, but they definitely decided to make her a pretty thick. But she's Squirrel Girl, so she's invincible. She's not actually invincible. You can be KO'd, but So they have characters rated by difficulty, like between 1 and 5 stars. Squirrel Girl is a 1-star character because she's very simple to play. You have a slingshot, you shoot acorns at people. You can throw a big acorn, and you can do like a squirrel jump. Her ult is Squirrel Stampede. She sends a wave of squirrels at enemies. And she can also like instantly reset her abilities with a different ability. You can like auto reload and reset your cooldown timers. That's it. She does have a little bit of AoE, and her projectiles do arc because you're shooting acorns out of a slingshot. And I'm like, yes, this is a 1-star difficulty character. Playing Squirrel Girl is dirt simple, but you can still get kills because you can do funny things. And then other characters are, various levels. There's some characters that I'm not quite sure I understand all of their feel yet. Like, I tried out Magneto a little in the like tutorial zone. Wasn't sure I understood what all I was doing, but like I said, there's fuck tons of characters already. I think they're already teasing like future characters. Like I'm pretty sure Doom's gonna get added. But all that will be permanent when they add new heroes and enemy characters. Like nothing FOMO. The only things you can buy with premium currency are cosmetics, and they are also available for free currency. Like their servers didn't fucking explode. Like this game is everything about it has been done correctly. So if you like 5v5 hero shooters, this game is good. Thumbs up. Much love. Much review. Check it out. Try it out. You can wait around for a little bit, but that's my 15-minute overview of Marvel Rivals. Game good. We could isolate that sound clip. But that does mean we're at 4.5 hours. So, yeah, their aesthetics are real good. They got a good trailer and good animations. Got little intro cutscenes to all the maps and stuff. They're having fun, which is good. Reminds me, I should try and play Psylocke more. She seems super cool, but also she is in demand a lot, so people pick her. That's why you gotta cultivate a wide roster of heroes, so you can, if somebody else gets in there first, you gotta get in there. Blah, blah, blah. But that means, unless Lucky has anything else to bring up on the podcast, we will be doing the outros.
Yeah.
Is that yes, and I have something to bring up, or yes, and the outros?
Oh, no. I'm sorry, I meant, yeah, we're getting out of here. Sorry.
Okay. I figured that's what you meant, but I had to be sure. That was ambiguous. We have been here a while. I do kind of feel like talking for 4 hours has, like, unglued my chest a little, but knowing me, I'll probably feel like passing out immediately, so hopefully we can get this edited in a quick turnaround. But this has been the show. Let's talk FGO. Didn't mean for that to rhyme. Like I said, we'll probably talk more about a couple of those things, see where we're going. We'll probably return to the partner awards and stuff. I will run up a new poll for Fanservice Friday this weekend sometime, not tonight. And we'll be back for more. And remember, pregame for Lost Belt 7, I'm going to schedule that in for next weekiest. And hopefully I will be less tired. You guys like them thick. And like I said, I've already got a funny title in mind, assuming I don't somehow magically forget it in the next couple of hours. That happens sometimes. That's why I sometimes write down my jokes if they're really good and I think of them ahead of time. Anyway, we're winding down the show. Like this video. Leave your comments below. Join our Discord. Join our channel memberships. They're cool. They also give you emotes and badges. Don't you want a shiny badge? But make sure you're subbed. Make sure you're liking. Make sure you ring the bell for notifications. And consider supporting us on Patreon. Like these fine patrons like Adam Hart, Blacklist OG, Call Me Zed, Carlos, Dragon, JDV9000, Starlight, Legendary Boss Hunter, Liam Kessler, Rise of Kenji, Rogarvin, Charvor, some guy named Bob and Varen the Crow. Thank you very much for your support, patrons. You can get access to the audio version early for as little as $1 a month or approximately $10 a year with a discount on annual memberships. At higher levels, you can vote in polls like Fanservice Friday, that's at our 5 and Up poll, and get early access to videos like Wanted. Also, the lost episode of Rain, kind of, sort of. Reminds me, I'll have to remind Lucky tomorrow because he's just got his Path of Exile working, so he's not going to do it right now to upload the next AP. But check out Rain as well. And at the higher tiers, you obviously, at our highest tier, you get the on-air shout-out, but at the tier below that, and also at that higher tier, you can listen to us record the show live every week. So you too can stay up till 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, don't you look at me like that. You were going to do it anyway. But yes, thanks everybody for tuning in, especially for those of you who stayed all the way to the end here. And we'll see you guys next Tim.
Bye now.
Goodbye. Perhaps some kind of tiny Tim.